theyeshiva.net.
Tetzaveh Beis 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11. Right? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11. Yeah. Tetzaveh Beis, 11 lines from the bottom. The line starts Ubenimtza Haloich Achar Haroiv Shnei Tziburim. The Gemarah brought the first case was that there were 9 piles of matzah and 1 pile of chametz, and a mouse came and you saw the mouse take one of the pieces from one of the piles, one of the lafas, and the problem is you don't know if it took matzah or it took chametz because you did not notice that. And then it went into your house, which you already checked for b'dikas chametz. So now you have a mouse with a piece of lafa or pita in your house. You don't know if it's matzah or if it's chametz. Of course, if it's matzah, you don't have to do a second b'dikas chametz. If it's chametz, you have to do a second b'dikas chametz. As the Gemarah said earlier on the Tetzaveh Aleph, that the Mishnah that says you're not afraid that a weasel or a rat took chametz from one house to another house is only if you did not see. You don't stam create a concern that maybe there's chametz in my house because a rat brought chametz into my house, and then ein l'dav v'soif. You'll never be able to stop doing b'dikas chametz because there's always chametz somewhere on the continent where the rat could get chametz from. And therefore, we're not afraid of that. But that's only because you didn't see a rat coming with chametz to your house. But when you saw a rat or a weasel or any other rodent or a mouse coming with chametz to your house, then it's a whole different situation. Then we said, Ein safek moitzi midei vadai. Even if it would be a small piece of bread and you can eat it, but you're not sure. It's vadai that there's chametz. It's certain there's chametz. It's a safek. Maybe she took it out. Maybe she ate it. Maybe she ran back out to the street. Maybe she went into the sewer system. I don't know. But I don't know. So I have to do b'dikas chametz. Right? That was clear. Here, you saw a mouse come into your house, but you don't know what it is. Maybe bread, which is chametz, and maybe bread, which is matzah. So the question is what to do. And this is where the Gemarah taught us a gewaldike chiddush. And that is that you are mechuyev to do another b'dikas chametz. You are mechuyev to do another b'dikas chametz. In contrast, in contrast to the second situation, if the mouse did not take the piece from 9 piles of matzah or 1 pile of chametz, but rather one of the pieces separated from all the piles into an isolated place, and we don't know from where, and the mouse comes and takes that piece and brings it into your house, and then you say that you don't have to do b'dikas chametz. Why don't you have to do b'dikas chametz? Because statistically, there's 9 piles of matzah and 1 pile of chametz. You can assume 90% or 95% or 99% that this was matzah, and therefore you don't have to do b'dikas chametz. You follow the majority. You go according to the Rav. What's the svara that in the first case you don't say this? So this is what we learned at length, and we explained it at length. And let's summarize the nekuda. That the Chachamim learned from a pasuk, Masechtas Ksuvis, from the pasuk Va'arav loy v'kam loy. The Chachamim learned a special halacha. Va'arav loy v'kam alav, that there is a special halacha called Kol Kavua Kemechza Al Mechza Dame, which means that when something is in its place, Kavua means it's in its place. The word Kavua means established, but here it means when something is in its place, then it's never seen as a minority, ever. It's seen as a self-contained item, and it's not considered a minority, even if it is, in terms of the fact that there are others that are a majority. It's not considered a minority, it's considered kemechza al mechza, as though it would be 50-50. Even though it's not 50-50. The example is 9 stores. 9 are kosher. 1 is treif. The treifa store is not considered a minority because the treifa meat is in its place, which is a non-kosher store. What happens now if somebody buys meat in one of the stores and the person is not sure what store they went into, whether it was a kosher store or not a kosher store? So the suffix was born in the makam hakviyas, in the place of the meat. Kol kavua kemechza al mechza dami. Whenever something is in its place, it's not considered a minority, but 50-50. So now when you have a suffix, it's considered a suffix, not of 90-10, but a 50-50. Because it's considered a suffix of 50-50, so I can't eat this meat.
What's the reason it's 50-50?
Because it's kavua. Because it's in its place.
In its place, meaning you found it, you're not sure where you bought it.
You went into a store. There's a block, there's 9 kosher stores, 1 treifa store. Person goes into a store, buys a piece of meat.
No, there's no way.
He doesn't know which store it was. He didn't realize, he didn't remember, whatever it is.
What does it mean it's in its place?
Now he comes home, he wants to eat the meat. His wife says, which store did you get it from? He says, ich weiß nicht. So you would say, statistically, he got it from a kosher store. There's 9 kosher stores. We say no. It's considered a suffix. It's a sveika deraisa. It's 50-50. Why is it 50-50? It's not 50-50. Legally, it's not 50-50, but legally we consider it. Halachically, we consider it 50-50. Why? Because since the suffix was created where? Where was the suffix triggered? Where did the suffix begin? The suffix began in the store. In the store, the meat is in its place. Yeah. So it's not considered bottle. It's not considered a minority legabe the other stores.
It's considered one store.
It's considered one store. In other words, on this store, there's only one question. Either it's a kosher store or not a kosher store. That's one question. 50% it's kosher, 50% is not. Either it's a kosher or not kosher. It's one question on this store. When you're in the store, that's the question. When you're in the store, you don't look at the store as part of the pool, as part of the whole mahalach, as part of all the stores. You look at the store alone because it's kavua, it's established. So you have one question: is this store kosher or not kosher? If you know it's kosher, great. If you know it's not kosher, great. Now you don't know. So this is a suffix that's called noilad b'makam hakviyas. It was created in the place of kviyas. So therefore, this type of suffix is considered suffix hashakal, 50-50. Now when you come home and you don't know, you say it's 50% kosher, 50% treif, you're not allowed to eat it. Sveika deraisa l'chumra. What happens if you find a piece of meat on the road in front of the stores? It's kosher. Why? Now you pick up the piece of meat. Now you have to look at all the 10 stores because it came from one of them. It didn't come from one store. It came from all of them. Very interesting. Allah, Yataifas. Now you have to look at all the stores together. Ooh, now you make one mishmash. Now you can make one cholent. One cholent? Majority of the cholent is kosher. It's a cholent. When each store is in its own place, it's a kavua. That's prat kavua. Kavua. So then it has its own identity. Just like if it's not bottle, it has its own identity. It doesn't get affected by the fact that there's another 1,000 kosher stores. I don't care. It doesn't affect me. I am who I am. Because I am who I am. So if you know who I am, I don't get bottled. But there's so many stores that are kosher. So what? But I'm treif. Huh? Right, but the suffix was born in the store.
I know.
In the second case, the suffix was born not in the store. When the guy came out of the store, he probably knew which store it was. Not everybody's a shlamazel like me. The guy knew. He just dropped it. He's a second type of shlamazel. He knows which store. He just drops things. There's always a shlamazel in the story.
Why are we giving him 50-50?
Because it's a suffix.
Right. So I'm saying you're taking away suffix from 9 out of 10.
No, suffix is 1.
The suffix is at 1. Suffix is at 1. Kosher, nicht kosher. When I find it in the street, now suffix is not on 1. It's a suffix on a piece of meat that came from one of the 10, which I don't know from which one. So what do I say? Follow the majority. By chametz, we say the same thing. If the achbar took it from the makam akviyas, from the pile, then the suffix was bored in the place of kavua, its place. Its place doesn't mean that it was always there from Sheshis and Mebereshis. Place just means this is now its place. Kavua doesn't mean the meat also. It's not kavua here from Sheshas and Mebereshas. It used to be in a behema, right? Kavua means it's just its place, the place where it is, the place where it was, and it had an identity. In other words, it had a place with its identity, and it was a clear identity. It's a pile of matzah, a pile of chametz. The Achbar now takes it. I don't know which pile he took it from. Each pile is completely self-contained. Each pile is a question. You're chametz or you're not chametz. If I would know it's matzah or chametz, it doesn't get bottled in the others. It is what it is. Right? It has its own toikif. It has its own muhus. It has its own mitzias. Now, you don't know what I am. Okay, so I'm either this or I'm this. It's never defined vis-a-vis the other stores, the other piles. B'meila, it's 50-50, chametz or matzah. Now you come into my house, 50% matzah. Legally, I have to look at it as 50% chametz. Even though it's not, you'll tell me it's not 50%. Legally, that's how I'm looking at it. Halachically. And b'meila, I have to do b'dikas chametz. Masha'ein kain if the Achbar took it from a separate piece that left the piles already. Now I have to ask, this piece came from where? I look at it as one big cholent. It came from one of the 10. 9 of them were matzah. 1 was chametz. I say it's roiv. So I have to do another b'dikas chametz. What would taka happen if you had 10 piles? 9 from matzah, 1 from chametz. Yeah? And they got mixed up together. What would be the halacha? Then you're good. Same that did. Then it's not kavua anymore. It's not kavua. The matzah and the chametz used to be separate, but now lechatchila they're mixed in. If they're mixed in, it's not kavua. It's not in its place with its identity. The kviz. Let's say an hour before somebody came and made one big pile, 9 matzah, 1 chametz, and somebody came and mixed them together because they want to sweep it up. What would be that? Now a mouse comes. Now the suffix didn't happen in makam akviyas. Now the suffix happened where? In an absolute shalent where the chametz was already bottled. The chametz was nullified. It was a minority. It was mixed. It wasn't its own store. It wasn't its own pile, right? Somebody takes the 10 stores and makes one store. You break down all the walls and now everything gets mixed up. Now you have a problem of bittul. Now it's not mechzal mechza. Now you're back to bittul, and that's where the suffix happened. You understand? That's the difference of kavua and not kavua. Kavua means it's in a place where its identity is distinct and clear. Parish means it's separated. It's not in that place. Now I have to look at everything.
Well, it's a suffix legabel people. Legabel achila, for sure it's not a suffix. There is something.
You're asking a good shaila. You're asking, b'dikas chametz is the rabbanon. If b'dikas chametz is the rabbanon, so even if it's a suffix, meaning even if it's 50-50, sveika the rabbanon lekula. Mela by meat, it's a suffix deraisa. So 50-50, you have to say it's treif. But you're saying even if it's 50% chametz, it's only 50%. And it's a suffix and a din d'Rabbanan. So maybe you should go lekula, because that's the halacha. It's fake d'Rabbanan. When you have a doubt about a rabbinic thing, what's the halacha? You always follow leniency. For example, brachas, right? Suffix brachas. If you're not sure, if you made a bracha and the obligation is d'Rabbanan, then you don't say make another bracha, unless you're sure. Whenever it comes to a suffix d'Rabbanan, we always do the lenient. That's called sveika d'oraisa l'chum. So by meat, I understand. You're asking by b'dikas chametz. Let's say it's kavua, and let's say it's mechzal mechza. Granted, so it's 50% chametz, but it's also 50% not chametz. Just because you're kavua doesn't mean there's no matzah. There's also matzah. Just because it's 90% matzah, you don't want to call it 90, call it 50, but it's 50%. So you're asking a good shaila. Why does the Gemarah say you have to do another b'dikas chametz? It's an excellent question. It's a suffix of bal yirah, but if you say that you did bittul and b'dikas chametz is the rabbanon, so then you're not going to be ever on bal yirah. That's the shaila.
You might come to eat it, and that's the rice.
The rice and the chumrah, so then it's not a problem.
Okay, this is a good shaila. Hold on to it for one moment. It's a good shaila.
Bottle doesn't work.
Bottle of shishim or any of that. The majority doesn't work that much.
Right. You're not allowed to eat chametz. That's the rice. The question is on b'dika. If you say the question was on b'dika, yeah.
But even the rice, let's say if it was on 1 pile out of 10, it still doesn't work. So it's isur, because you might eat potential isur, right? Even in sveika, it's 1 out of 10. It's not metzah. It's not 50-50. 50-50 for sure. It's lechumra. We're not allowed to eat. But even 1 out of 10 we're not allowed to eat.
Yeah, for eating, for sure.
For eating, for sure. It's like
If you say the question is on eating, then it's not a question.
Yeah.
You're not allowed to eat a suffix chametz because that's a suffix deraisa. That's a suffix deraisa. It's like trefa meat. You're not allowed to eat trefa meat if it's a suffix, right? Bittul is beroiv min ha-Torah, but if it's not beroiv, if it's mechzal mechzal, it's not roiv. That's the chiddush of kavua. The chiddush of kavua. Verstandig? This was the first case. Now the Gemarah goes through a second case.
By meat is different. If you find 1 piece of meat outside of 10 stores, we can eat.
Yeah, but not if you got it in the store. If you got it in the store, then you can.
But what I'm saying by matzah, by chometz, if you find let's say a piece of lapa which looks like a matzah outside of the 10 stores where 9 was baking matzahs and 1 was baking chometz gomer, but it looks the same, you're not allowed to eat it anyway, right? Because it's soipik, even if it's 1 of the 10. But it's how does it compare to meat and the chometz?
No, you couldn't. Bittul beroiv.
Then
Yeah.
you could?
But bottle beroiv, yeah. Yeah, it's fine. Yeah. Well, you say it's not chametz.
No,
Bread,
because you're not sure.
challenge. But the shishim, you can still eat it. Piece of bread falls into that challenge.
This is before on Pesach chametz is not bottle, even b'mashal. Before Pesach chametz is bottle. On Pesach chametz is not bottle, even b'mashal. That's why we bake our matzahs before. They used to bake matzahs on Pesach and everything. Today we do everything before Pesach, because before Pesach, chametz could get bottle. After Pesach, chametz doesn't get bottle. It doesn't have the regular halachas of bittul.
So if you find a piece of bread
We're talking.
in the middle of
You're right. Then it's a different issue. You're right. We're talking here before. We're talking about the time of b'dikas chametz. Good point. On Pesach, chametz will not be bottled. So if you're saying if you find a mouse coming from taking this one piece and you're not sure, then you can't eat it.
one Pesach.
Right.
For sure. Before Pesach.
Before Pesach, there's bittul. Good ha'ara. A good ha'ara. Next case. Let's see next case. The Gemarah is now going to just explain the structure. Daf Tesamid Beis started a sugya. It's going to continue Daf Yud till Yuramid Beis, almost till the next Mishnah, not Mamish. And it's basically 9 cases. And the 9 cases evolve. Okay. So we had the first case was a case of Kavua. Now comes case number 2. What's case number 2? Shnei Tziburin, 2 pieces, 2 piles. Echad shel matzah v'echad shel chametz. One is matzah, one is chametz. V'lifneim shnei batim. And in front of these 2 piles, there's 2 houses. Echad badak v'echad she'ener badak. One already did b'dikas chametz, one didn't do b'dikas chametz. Yeah. So it's 10 o'clock at night, the night of Erev Pesach. I finished b'dikas chametz in my house. I'm done. I'm sitting on the stoop and drinking a cup of water, a cup of coffee. I'm good. You just came home, you're rushed, my shachem, and you're about to do b'dikas chametz. It's a beautiful scenario. In front of our house, there's 2 piles, matzah and chametz. Of course, they look the same. If they wouldn't look the same, you wouldn't have an issue with any of these. They look the same. Okay. V'asu shnei achbarim. Now, in this perfect scenario, 2 mice appeared. Echad shakal matzah, echad shakal chametz. One, of course, went to one pile and took matzah. One went to another pile and took chametz. Next. Each of the mice, now having its breakfast and lunch, of course, goes in, it's time to go to sleep. So each of them runs in to one of the 2 houses. So there's 2 piles, matzah chametz. There's 2 mice. One went to one pile, one went to another pile. One house was badak, one house was not badak, and each mouse went into another house. Great. V'lo yadinan, here's the problem. V'lo yadinan, heila hayal, v'heila hayal. We just don't know which one went into this and which one went into this. In other words, we lost track. Till now we're good. There's matzah, there's chametz, there's 2 mice. One mouse is addicted to matzah. One mouse is interested in chametz. We're good. There's 2 houses. I don't have to do b'dika, you have to do b'dika. And now the mice run into the houses, and here there's a confusion. Who was zoiche to get which mouse? And of course we understand the issue. If I got the mouse with the chametz, I have to do a new b'dikas chametz. For you it's no difference because you're anyway doing b'dikas chametz again. Not again, you didn't do it yet. So for you it's no difference. You're anyway checking for the bread in your house. So you'll check also for the bread that the mouse brought in. But for me it makes a big difference because I finished my b'dik. So here l'cha'ayra, it's an issue of 50-50, right? Statistically, what are the chances that there's chametz in my house? No, we do know. We do know. Here, the suffix didn't happen over there. The suffix didn't happen in the pile. Everything was clear. We live mamash together. As the mice ran in, we got confused or we didn't see. They go to the hallway. The hallway splits into two doors. We lost it over there. In the house, we lost count. So in the Makam HaKavua, there was no suffix. The suffix happened in the house.
Still only 50-50.
But it's l'chayra mechza al mechza. So you would think, based on the previous Gemarah, what would be the halacha? Got to do another b'dikas chametz, right? That's where our logic would go. We just learned that was the case before. Kol kavul k'mechza al mechza. But here it's really 50-50 because it's not 9 and 1. If you would have 9 piles and 1, fine. It's not like a 10 mice, 9 with matzah, 1 with chametz. You had 2 mice, 1 with matzah, 1 with chametz, so stack a 50-50. You don't need a kol kavua for 50-50. You have here a real 50-50, not only a legal one. Yeah. Comes the Gemarah and says, Hainu shtei kupas. This is like the case of shtei kupas. Shtei kupas means 2 boxes. That's how the Gemarah is doing all these halachas. It says a case, it compares it to a precedent that we have in Mishnayos or Braisa, and then it applies it back to the chametz. That's the first case. We did Hainu Teisha Chanuyas, Hainu Seifa, and now we do Hainu Shtei Kupas. The Tanya, we have a Braisa. Here again, it says the Tanan, but we don't have a Mishnah like this, so that's why the Maseres Hashas changes it from the Tanan, which means a Mishnah, to the Tanya, which is a Braisa. Shtei Kupas, if you have 2 boxes. Basically, these 2 boxes were usually wicker boxes, and achas shel chulin v'achas shel truma. One of these containers was filled with chulin, which means regular mundane fruits or produce, and one was filled with truma, which is sacred produce. Now let's remember here. Let's remember. What is truma? Min HaTorah, when a Jew has a farm in Eretz Yisrael, a field, a farm, a garden, an orchard, I have to separate. Truma means separation. V'yichuli truma. I have to separate tithe, approximately 2% to the kohen. I can give it to any kohen I want, and the kohen eats it. This food becomes holy. What do we mean holy? Another Jew is not allowed to eat it. The kohen can eat it. His wife can eat it. His children can eat it. His servants can eat it. But a Yisrael or a Levi is not allowed to eat truma. It's asur lazar, and it's a very serious penalty. Misa b'dei shamayim. You're not allowed to eat truma. Why? It's holy food. It's sacred food. Once I segregate it, once I separate it, and I say this is hareza truma, even before I give it to the kohen, then I give it to the kohen. Only the kohen can eat it. Granted, that's the halacha with truma. What's the din when truma falls in to regular fruits? Let's say I have an apple of truma that belongs to the kohen. And now this apple, somebody didn't realize, my child takes the apple and mixes it with a box of 500 apples. So the din is that for truma to become kosher to everybody, you need a ratio of 1 to 100, which means if there were 100 apples minimum and 1 truma apple fell in, it's called bottle. If there were 99 apples, none of them could be eaten by me. They all could be eaten only by a kohen. I could sell them to a kohen, of course, but that means I'm going to have to sell them for a much cheaper price because the demand for these apples is not great because there's only a few people who can buy it. So I could sell them to the kohen because I didn't have to give the kohen 199 apples. I had to give him 1 apple. I could sell him 98 apples. But he's not going to pay a lot of money.
You only have 50 to give one. Say 50%.
Oh, I'm just giving an example. It fell into... Truma is 2%. I'm just now saying, if the truma didn't fall into 100, it's no bittul. The bittul of truma is a ratio of 100 to 1. Or more, of course. If you have 300 apples, great. If you have 1,000 apples, wonderful. But the minimum is 1 to 100. That's the din of bittul. Min HaTorah also beroiv would work, by the way. With the Rabbanan, they made 100 to 1, and there's a reason why the Rabbanan made the bittul of truma so much more than usual, meaning not only 60 like we have by treifus, but 100. Okay. They learned it out from the psukim how it should be done. What happened here? You have 2 boxes, chulin and truma. V'lifneim shnei se'in. In front of these 2 boxes, you have shnei se'in. A saw is a certain measurement, a certain volume measurement. There's an argument in the shit is exactly what it is, but it's basically, you have an art school, what does he say, probably between 2 and 3 gallons? Between 2 and 3 gallons. So it's a nice amount. And you have 2 saw, meaning 2 vessels that contain a saw. Echad chulin ve'echad shel truma. One has chulin and one has truma. V'naflu elu l'toichelu. The peiris from this vessel fell into this box. The peiris of this vessel fell into this box. That we know, but we don't know which one fell into which. So it's mamish similar to the situation that we have here with the chametz. So again, you had 2 containers, chulin and truma. You had 2 containers, chulin and truma. Both of them got emptied out in these 2 boxes, which would have been wonderful if we would know what fell into what. But we don't. What's our problem? Our problem is like this. If the chulin fell into the chulin, great. The truma fell into the truma, great. If the chulin fell into the truma, no. The problem is the truma fell into the chulin. Because the truma fell into the chulin, now what do? If there was 100-1, I don't have a problem. In other words, if the boxes that it fell into had a ratio of 100-1 to the boxes that fell into it, to one box that fell into it, I'm fine. Why? Because even if it's truma, it got bottled, but it didn't have that. Because it didn't have that, so now I'm stuck. So we have a gewaldige chiddush. Mutarin. You're allowed to eat the peiros of chulin. They may be mixed with truma. How could you? Shani oimer. Because I say, chulin l'tech chulin naflu, truma l'tech truma naflu. I say, the chulin attracted the chulin, and the truma attracted the truma. The chulin fell into chulin, the truma fell into truma. What's the basis for this? Just like the truma fell into truma, you could have said the truma fell into chulin. So, the laws of attraction, the truma fell to truma and fell into it. I mean, somebody poured them both in and didn't realize. Yeah, they thought somebody was trying to clean up. They thought it's one big apples. Let's make one pile of it. They didn't realize. Huh? If anything, opposites attract. Here it's not. Shani oimer, because I say. What's the Havana here? The Havana here obviously is, let's see Rashi. Shteikup is Davazan Nichel Lamne Mishnah Shteikup is the Talinan Likula. We attribute it to leniency. V'lefnei and Shnei Sin Shal Peres. V'naflu Ela L'Teichelu Asayin L'Teichelu Akupas V'yadu Alanu Shechad Nafal Bezu V'echad Bezu. We know that one fell into this and one fell into this. It's not like we think maybe both fell into one. Ve'ein Yadua Eze Bezu V'eze Bezu Adeilu Mutarin. Peres Shal Kupas Achulin Mutarin L'Zarke Betchila. They're permissible to the Yisrael as initially, afilu ein bekupa gedei la'alas asab echad u'meya. Even though the box does not have a ratio of 100-1, in order to be mevatel, lahalos means to elevate the sum, meaning to be mevatel the truma. Shanu oimrim, chulin l'toy chulin naflu. Alma, talinan l'kula, heteb isabis.
You don't even go to the fact.
It's 50-50, we attribute it to a leniency. We say, you're right, it could have been this way. Halachically, we're assuming a lenient method. We're assuming that the more lenient thing happened. You could say opposite. You're right, you could say opposite. But the Chacham said, despite the fact that you could say opposite, Shani Oimer, legally this is what we're assuming. Hachenami l'kula talin, and here too, we say, Hachametz nichnas l'she'enei bodek v'amatzah l'bodek. The chametz went into your house, you got to do b'dikas chametz, and the matzah went into my house, and I don't got to do b'dikas chametz. That's what we say. Fascinating halach. The Gemarah is going to analyze this.
Cases where you have
The one that
chulin
did?
and truma, and they fall out into parallel kupas, but
Yes. We don't know. Yes. Yes.
So you take on that they
Yeah.
track.
We take on that they worked in parallel symmetry.
You can say positive and negative, and you can say
Yeah.
that
Yeah.
go to whichever one is
Yeah.
tracking.
We're assuming halacha, even though we know it could have happened otherwise. Legally, we're assuming the more lenient scenario. What would be the more lenient scenario? Of course, that the chulin is not mixed with truma and we can eat it.
Even though we know it,
Right.
even though
Right.
we know it's 50-50.
Even though we know it's 50-50. What's the reason for this?
It's actually only 25%.
Zolzain.
Okay, but it's still.
This is what happens when you have a physicist and a mathematician in the shir. So even though it's a 50-50, we say Tanlin and Lekul. Zog the Gemarah, 1 second. I could understand the Shani Oimer, I say, meaning, even though it could have happened otherwise. But this is what I say, and we understand why they say Shani Oimer. It's very important words. They're not saying this is what happened. We don't know what happened. They're saying Shani Oimer. We're saying this happened. In other words, it's only lahalacha that this happened. When it comes lahalacha, we're assuming that this happened. Shani Oimer. It's a chiddush of Ani Oimer. It's not. They're giving a nevuah about what happened. They're not giving nevuahs here. I understand that when B'truma d'Rabbanon, because this brayso was written after the Churban Beis Hamikdash, and Truma was rabbinic. B'meile, even if you got it wrong, what's the worst thing that's going to happen? You're going to be eating Truma that's not biblical. Because the Rambam holds, and this is very important, Rashi says, Truma d'Rabbanan bisman hazeh. The Rambam says in Hilchos Trumas that the moment most Jews were not living in Eretz Yisrael, there's no obligation of Truma, which means he holds that even during the second Beis Hamikdash, Truma was rabbinic. From when the 10 tribes were exiled, 150 years before Churban Bayis Rishon, Truma became a rabbinic obligation. Even those who differ with the Rambam still hold, after Churban Bayis Sheni, when there's no Beis Hamikdash, Truma is midrabanan. This brayso was written by the Tanaim sometime after the Churban. So they're saying today, if it happens, people still were giving truma. The Koyanim was still eating truma. Today that's gone because you have to eat truma betara. But then they still had the paraduma and they could cleanse themselves from tumas meis. So Koyanim was still eating truma. Everything worked. After the second Churban, yeah. So therefore, Bizman hazeh, when it's the Rabbanon, what's the worst thing that can happen? You got it wrong. You got it wrong, and what are you eating? I'm a Yisrael, and I'm eating truma in... Okay, but you're not violating a biblical obligation. We're not telling you this is not truma. You're not obligated to give truma. It's just regular apples. The rabbis, Mamela, it's a suffix in a din d'Rabbanan. If it's a suffix in a din d'Rabbanan, it's lekula. It's a kula. Masha'en kain, if you say. So that's what the Shani Oimer. Frag the Gemarah, but b'nei chametz v'day reise mi amrinan. Here it's about chametz. Here it's about chametz. It's a dim d'oraisa. Nobody says chametz today is only with the Rabbanan. Sag the Gemarah, tu b'dikas chametz d'oraisa. The Rabbanan he. The d'oraisa bittul ba'al masagile. This is the second time the Gemarah is repeating it. Is b'dikas chametz d'oraisa? B'dikas chametz only a chiv the Rabbanan. With d'oraisa you could do bittul. In other words, not to be over on by your you could do bittul. So in Mela, in my house, I do bittul. So it's not a question if I'm going to be over on by. Let's say the mouse came in with chametz to my house. What's the worst thing that's going to happen? The worst thing that's going to happen is that there's chametz in my house for Pesach, which is an issur d'Rabbanan. Because when I do bittul. If I do bittul, there's no bayirah bayimotze, even if there's chametz in my house. Elamai, it's a suffix d'Rabbanan. I may have to. So the Rabbanan said it's fine, you don't have to. Since it's a suffix and a chiyuv, the Rabbanan, 50-50, you don't have to. B'meila, you don't have to do a second b'dikas chametz. But if I wouldn't do bittul, let's say this story happens, Erev Pesach in the afternoon, when you can't do bittul anymore, and then the mouse comes into my house, then I have a problem. Why do I have a problem? Because I can't do bittul anymore. Then I would have to do b'dika. But since we're talking about a case, there was bittul. So now the question is if I have to do b'dika. So if I know there's chametz, doesn't help that I did bittul because the chachamim said you have to do b'dika. But since it's a suffix d'Rabbanan, shani yomer, I say, you can assume that the chametz went into the bayis she'enoi baduk. And you do the b'dika, I don't have to do the b'dika. Excellent question. So you should have said this by the first case too. Because chametz is the Rabbanan. That's what he asked. That's why I waited for this Gemarah. After you read this Gemarah, the first case becomes problematic. The first case you told me kol kavua kemechza al mechza, and if we have to do another b'dikas chametz. A few lines later, the Gemarah contradicts itself. Says no, b'dikas chametz the Rabbanan. Really, you just reminded yourself now b'dikas chametz the Rabbanan. You forgot that 4 lines ago. B'dikas chametz the Rabbanan. It's a very, very strange, very hard thing to understand in the Gemarah. The question is really on Rashi. Because take a look in the Gemarah itself. What does the first case look like? Teisha tziburin shel matzah, right? Ve'echot shel chametz v'as achbar v'shakal v'lo yadinan I matzah shakal I chametz shakal. Yeah, the Gemarah doesn't say the word bdika. You realize the Gemarah doesn't say the word bdika. The Gemarah just says, I don't know if the achba took chametz, I don't know if the achba took matzah. That's what the Gemarah says. Take a look at the second case. Okay, the second case. Shnei tzibur nechad shamaz b'et chametz v'lfneim shnei botem echad boduk v'echad she'enoi boduk v'azu shnei bon mechad shakal v'ledin heila ayil v'heila ayil. Here we introduce the concept of bdika. The first case not. Rashi, though, says both cases are talking about the same thing. If you take a look in Rashi, which Rashi? The Rashi says, "V'nichnas labayis b'faneinu v'layadin nichama shakal v'chivin dechazina tzrichin anu livdoik." Rashi is the one who says the first case is talking about b'dikas chametz. Oy matzah shal, you don't need b'dika. So Rashi clearly says both cases are talking about b'dika. The Gemarah in the first case doesn't mention the word b'dika. The Gemarah says we don't know if it's chametz or matzah. So let's see.
Maybe the difference is the first case we don't know if it was a bdika before or not.
No, if you're not
Gemarah doesn't speak about bdika.
right, so then you have to do b'dika. The question is,
In both cases you have to do bdika second time.
right.
Rashi holds B'dikas Midirat.
So,
Ah?
no,
Rashi
Oh,
holds B'dikas.
okay, good order. So they have a problem with the second case. If you're saying b'dikas deiraisa, they have a problem with the second case. So let's take a look in Tosfos. Hainu teisha chanuyos. You see, the second to the last Tosfos on the Testament base. Hainu teisha chanuyos. Zok Tosfos. The first case we compared it to the story of 9 stores. Lefi mashapir shakuntis linya b'dika. According to Rashi, who says that we're talking about b'dika, loy nehira l'ri. Rabbeinu Yitzchak says this doesn't make sense. The heichi ma'isi rayim b'teisha chanuyos davas sveika d'oraisa vazlin l'chumra hachas sveika d'rabbananu kedam rinam b'samuch. What are you comparing it to 9 stores? By the 9 stores, it's a question of meat, which is an isim in Torah. Of course, it's asur. Here, it's a question of bdika, which is b'dirabban, as the Gemarah itself is going to say. Miu yashloimer the ayri kegoyin shaloi bitl. One way of saying this, according to Rashi, is the first case there was no bitl. The second case there was bitl. In the first case, he didn't do bitl. Since he didn't do bittul, or maybe he can't do bittul anymore because it happened too late, Erev Pesach in the afternoon, or he didn't do bittul, so now it's a question by Rabbi Yematzim in Atar, which Rashi in the first Mishnah says, why do you have to be by the chametz? Kadesh le'laver Rabbi by Rabbi Yematzim. Because if there's no bittul, b'dika then is a chiyuv min haTorah taka. If there was no bittul, you have to do b'dika. B'meila, it's a suffix d'oraisa. If you don't do b'dika, might be over on Tashbisu and Bayir Rabbi. What do you have to do? That's one way of learning it. The second case, the Gemarah says Shani Yomer. So you have to say in the second case, for some reason, the Gemarah was talking about that there was bittul, and therefore it's the Rabbi. Taka, in the second case, if there wouldn't be bittul, you would say the same thing. You have to do b'dika again because it's 50-50. That's one way of learning it, which of course is a little difficult, because even though it works, but it's a little difficult why the Gemarah is changing gears.
Yeah, because it should have been saying that the second time you have to do bittul.
Because I'll tell you why the problem. The problem is because then the second case should have been the first case in a case where you did bittul. You understand? The second case, the Gemarah should have repeated the first case and just said, and in a case where you did bittul, then you don't have to do b'dika. Because really that's what you're telling me, just in a different scenario. Okay, so you could find answers, but that's one way of looking at it. Frektoit says, "V'oid kasha." I have another problem. Gabei teisha chanuyos leke cheskes heter. By 9 stores, there's no cheskes heter, meaning it's not like there was an assumption of heter. Aval hachi here ukma cheskes baduk. The habe baduk ma'iri di lavachi pshita de boy b'dik. L'chayre there's a difference because by the meat, the treif store doesn't have a cheskes heter. It's treif. The question is which store I got it from. Here, this house, if I go to sometimes you have a suffix, you say, let's go back to the status quo. What do we know for sure? We know for sure that it was baduk. Because if you don't know for sure, then for sure you have to do b'dika. If you didn't do b'dika, then of course you have to do b'dika. No difference if there's a mouse or not. So l'chayre here, there's another reason to be mekel, besides the first issue, that this is d'oraisa. And b'dika is the rabbana, and teisha chanuyos is d'oraisa. The second thing here, that you hear you have a cheskes baduk. that the house is already in a state of cleanliness. Now you want to be oiker the chazaka based on a suffix. Chazaka is something. Chazaka means if we go like 5 hours, if we go 1 hour ago, we were good. Right? Now you want to change the status quo. Like we say, Hamoitzi mechaver olavarai. In other words, this is by me. Now you want to say it's yours. Okay, bring proof. This house is a kosher Pesach house. Now you want to say it's not. Bring proof. That's another strong svara to differ, to make a difference between the b'dikas chametz and chanuyos. So Tosfos says, v'nidalidi, Dileinyin shehevi achbar labayis v'nimtza kaboi ishari la'achila ilav. Now, in our culture, this is going to be hard to understand. But in those days, it's not hard to understand. The issue is the mouse brought in the food into the home, and it's here. The mouse leaves it. The mouse drops it off in the dining room. And the question is, the kinderlach zijn hungrig. Somebody's hungry, am I allowed to eat it or not on Pesach? That's the question. That's a whole different question. Now you can't tell me the house is becheskas boduk. What does the house being becheskas boduk have to do with this piece if I'm allowed to eat? Now you can't tell me it's the rabbanon. It's not the rabbanon. Eating chametz is the rice. So Tosfos learns that the question is a completely different question. It's not a question on b'dika. It's a question on achila. It's a whole different question. So it's a suffix d'oraisa, 50-50. 50% chametz, 50% matzah. Kol kavul k'mechza al mechza. The halach is you're not allowed to eat it. You tell me cheskas baduk? What does that have to do with achila? Because my house is kosher l'pesach, therefore I'm allowed to eat something that's a suffix chametz in the house. Nothing to do. It's two separate halachas. There's a dinner. Do I have to be baitik the house? Am I allowed to eat a piece that's a suffix chametz? Of course I'm not allowed to eat a piece that's suffix chametz. Of course, if this happened before the time that you're not allowed to eat chametz, it's not a question. It's talking about the time that you are not allowed to eat chametz, and now it's an isur min ha-Torah. So sveika d'oraisa l'chum.
Then the second case that we just learned about the two keepers, so it shouldn't be the same thing.
What?
Then for second case,
B'meila, Tosfos says this is the difference between the first case in Gemarah, the second case in Gemarah. The first case in Gemarah was about eating. The second case in Gemarah, now it's very geschmack. The second case in Gemarah is about b'dika. It's not about eating. We don't have a suffix if I'm allowed to eat it or not. Then you're talking not allowed to eat it. You're right. When the mouse, that's why we brought meat in the first case, because we're talking about eating, just like the meat. It's perfect. The second case we're talking about, you came into the house, and the question is if I have to do another b'dika when I already did b'dika. This is only a chiyuv d'rabbanan. So here I say shandi yomer, just like truma is the rabbanan b'negei eating, not like the meat. So b'dika is the rabbanan. So it's a perfect symmetry, two separate cases, and that's why in the second case it's a different case talking about b'dika. This is the shitta of Tosfos. Rashi doesn't learn like this. Rashi says the first question was b'dika. It was a suffix d'rabbanan. So Tosfos says because there was no bittul. The Gemarah says there was bittul in the second case. So here we're going to see a gewaldige word.
Where's the Kavua Nola in the case of the read that we just learned when it's about Akira? Is it because it's fixed there in your dining room?
Excellent. No, because the suffix happened when the mouse took it out from the pile.
So it's
From then, yes, that's the kavua.
So it's the piles.
Yes.
So it's 50-50 born in the street.
Yes.
There's
Yeah.
such a thing as cheskes.
Yeah.
A problem now, that means...
No, cheskas baduk is a big thing. Cheskas baduk is a big thing because it basically, you go back to certainty. Again, I'm going to give an example from a different situation. You come and you say that this sefer belongs to you, right? The haklal is, hamoitzi mechaveri olav haraya. You have to bring the proof. I don't have to bring the proof. Why? Because it's in my domain. I'm wearing this jacket. You say that I took it from you. Okay, bring proof. You understand? That's called chazaka. Chazaka means we let things go by the status quo of what is maintained right now as an obvious certainty. Is it for sure true? Of course it's not true. Nothing that we don't know anything that's for sure true. But this is what we're assuming. Now you're trying to shake it up. You want to shake up the status quo. You bring proof. I don't have to bring proof. My house is kosher l'Pesach. I did b'dika. Everybody knows. I know. Now you're telling me, no. It's not. Bring proof. Could you bring proof? 50%. It's a suffix. So there's another reason, not if it's a vadai. The vadai changes the chazaka. Your house is not kosher l'Pesach. There's bread in your house. Sorry. It used to be, not anymore. But it's a suffix. So that's the idea. The burden of proof is on you, not on me, not on my house is a good house. You want to say it's not a good house. That's the svar of Cheskas Heter.
Which is stronger, Kavua or Chazaka?
It's two separate inyonim. It depends.
Saying, if you're gonna bring a
Well, we see here that.
you say that you have to say that a muktzah
So Tosfos is saying that the chazaka should be stronger.
should be strong.
That's what he's asking. Yeah, that's why he says it's about achila. But I want to introduce another perspective that answers this question, and this is an extraordinary insight that was given by the Magid Mishnah in the name of the Ra in Rambam. Take a look, Rambam. We have copies here. Hilchos Chametz U'Matzah, Perek Beis Halacha Yud. Perek Beis Halacha Yud. Sagt der Rambam. Hiniach Tisha Tziburin Shel Matzah. And you'll see it's almost a quote from our Gemarah. You left 9 piles of matzah. Ve'echad shel chametz. Uba achbar v'notel. A mouse came and took it. V'lo yadanu, we don't know im chametz im matzah notel. Did he take chametz or did he take matzah? V'nichnas l'bayis boduk. And he went into a checked house. Tzarich livdoik. You have to be boidik. Shekol ha'kavua k'mechza al mechza. Who does the Rambam learn like? Read Rashi or the Tosfos? Yeah, like Rashi. Tzarich livdoik. Nichnas l'bayis boduk. In other words, he learns that you have to do bdika. Like Rashi. So take a look in the Magid Mishnah on the right. Okay? It's a little small, but I'll read it. Hiniach tisha tziburin shel matzah. Okay. Now, before the Magid Mishnah, take a look at the Ravid on the left side, in middle, you see on the left side of the Rambam, Asagas Ravid, in small words. Hiniach tisha. Kosev Ravid zal. Loi mechavre ha-milsa. I do not agree with this. Elo le'inyan bittel. Aval inyan b'dika. Sveika de Rabbananu. The Ravid is basically giving us here a clear perspective that what Tosfos expressed. Sorry. This is true about bittel. You have to do another bittel. That, yeah. Why? Safek min ha-Torah. You got to do another bittel. But b'dika? You don't have to do b'dika. Why? It's a safek de Rabbanan. It's mechza mechza, but safek de Rabbanan. Again, problem that Tosfos introduced into Rashi. Now let's see the Magid Mishnah. After he quotes the Rambam.
Bittul doesn't cover anything that comes in after.
Right, so you do a new bittul. If you can't do a new bittul, because it's Erev Pesach after the Zman, you can't do bittul after Erev Pesach around 11 o'clock. After the beginning of the 6th hour, you can't do bittul. So then do another bdika. But this is, if it happened before, just do another bittul. And then you're good. You don't have to do you don't have to do bdika.
So what Ravid and Tosfos, the first case and the second case?
The first case talking about eating, not bdika. Like Tosfos, the first case, the question is eating, not bdika. You don't have to do another bdika. And the second case is talking about bdika. That's why you don't have to do another bdika. But Rashi clearly says you have to do another bdika. The Rambam clearly says you have to do another bdika. And we're back to our big question. Sveika de Rabbanon? L'kula, what happened to that? It's a suffix. The Gemarah itself says this. How can they argue with the Gemarah? The Gemarah too, the second case tells you Sveika de Rabbanon l'kula. And they're saying, no, you have to do another bdika. Something very strange here. Very strange. Unless they say there was no bittul. That's what the Ravid says. If there was no bittul, you're right. So that's a way of answering it. But is there maybe another way of answering it?
There's no bittul. It was before the 6th hour.
Even if it was before the 6th hour, but you didn't do bittul for whatever reason.
But after the 6th hour, you can only do b'dika.
You're right. You're right. If it's after the 6th hour, you can only do b'dika. You can't do bittul anymore. Yeah. We're assuming that this happened during the time of b'dika's chametz, meaning either in the night or in the morning. But you're right. If it happens in the middle of Pesach, the laws change. Right. It's always before. Bittul could only happen until the beginning of the 6th hour. The beginning of the 7th hour min ha-Torah and the beginning of the 6th hour min Rabbanon. Once the chametz does not belong to you, let's remember, there's no bittul, right? As we learned in Davav, bittul can only happen when the chametz is used. Let's see the Magid Mishnah. He quotes the Rambam, he quotes the Gemarah. I'm not going to go through the whole thing because we just learned the Gemarah. V'das Rashi zal. You see the Magid Mishnah. V'das Rashi zal. Ushara mefarshim ha'acharonim Kedas Rabbeinu, like the Rambam. Rashi holds like the Rambam. Gam, it's really the Rambam holds like Rashi. Rashi was before the Rambam, but the Ravid is just trying to bring out that they match. He's not talking historically. Gam Divrei Goinim Nirikein. From the Goinim it also seems that way. V'chein kasu beferish ba'alachas harav Yitzchak ibn Geyas. V'kasav harazal. The Ra'ar Rabbeinu Aaron Alevi says, one of the great Rishonim, says the Maggid Mishnah. Shahatam, the reason is, the Af al Gav, the Sveika de Rabbanon, even though it's a Safek de Rabbanon, Kivon Shebdikas Chometz, Tchilosa ala Safek, since Bdikas Chometz, Tchilosa means its very beginning, its very foundation, its very genesis is created for a doubt, because of a doubt. Therefore, their attitude to this suffix is different than any other suffix. The Rabbanon v'chein ikir, and this is the truth. This is the way to learn the Gemara. What is the Maggid Mishnah telling us?
So basically, there is exception to the Svekas.
Yeah, that's B'dikas Chametz is a different creature completely. Every other mitzvah the Rabbanon, is the Rabbanon made, you should do a mitzvah. Let's take this Truma case. Truma cases, you don't have to do Truma. Right? But the Rabbanon you have to do Truma. Now it's a question, it's a suffix. So we could go lenient. In other words, it's a suffix, is this Truma or not Truma? Can I eat it or I can't eat it? Do I have to sell it to a Kohen? I'm not sure. If I'm sure, then I can't eat it. But if I'm not sure, we go L'kul. Since it's on only an Isser, the Rabbanon, a suffix, the Rabbanon, we go L'kul. You want to say B'dikas Chametz is the same thing. You're not sure if this Chametz or not Chametz, right? So therefore say, it's only the Rabbanon, there's no Chametz. Says, well, excusez-moi, what is B'dikas Chametz? The whole B'dikas Chametz is a case where you're not sure that there's Chametz. What's B'dikas Chametz? If you have Chametz on your kitchen counter, you don't need a Chiyuv B'dikas Chametz the night before Pesach. Then you have to get rid of it. You don't need the Rabbanon to tell you. What's B'dikas Chametz? What's B'dikas? B'dikas Chametz means I got to go under the bed. Who puts Chametz under the bed? Why don't you say, Sveika de Rabbanon, L'kula? I come with a candle. I'm like, is there Chametz under the bed? 50% yeah, 50% not. We know the truth. 95% no, 5% yeah. Sveika de Rabbanon, L'kula. And what happens? There's no B'dikas Chametz. You're done in a minute. You understand? It's Gevalt Moide de Kavod from the Maggid Mishnah. The whole B'dikas Chametz is one big Safek de Rabbanon. You should stop before you begin. Go with a candle. Is there Chametz in that drawer in the bathroom? No. Maybe. Sfeik de Rabbanon. L'kola, don't do it. What's the answer? That's the mitzvah. The mitzvah is that even though it's a suffix, I want you to be meidik. That's the mitzvah. That's what B'dikas Chametz is. B'dikas Chametz, Chilasa ala suffix. The whole Yisoid of B'dikas Chametz is that there's a suffix, and I'm not sure. Came to Rabbanon and said, since you're not sure, we're telling you, go search and search and search and search. Go to every hole and go to every crack. Who put Chametz there? I don't know. But if it's a suffix, you got to search. So now you're telling me there's the word.
So much so that even we said earlier that if you put out the pen thing, we're
exactly. Enochanami. But Mele, you're telling me Sveika de Rabbanon L'kula. Really? If you would apply the din of Sveika de Rabbanon to B'dikas Chametz, you know what you got to do? That no Jew should ever do B'dikas Chametz. You should go with your candle, take a look and say, this is a suffix. Done, suffix, done. So I'm done already. My B'dikas Chametz is done. The piece of Chametz, that's Vada. You don't need B'dikas Chametz. That's Min HaTorah. So the whole Yisoid of B'dikas Chametz is that it's a suffix, you're not sure, and that's the mitzvah. The mitzvah is, even though it's a suffix, the mitzvah is to deal with sveikas. Das is the mitzvah. Das is B'dikas Chametz. So now you're telling me, because it's a suffix, if there's Chametz in the house or not, don't do B'dikas. Really? The whole B'dikas Chametz is the story. I'm not sure if there's Chametz. Maybe there is, maybe there's not. Do B'dika. Now a mouse came in. Kol kavur k'mechtzal mechza. So you're telling me, but I'm not sure. Maybe it's matzah. Maybe it's chametz. It's Sveika de Rabbanon. That is the mitzvah of b'dikas chametz. That's the geder. You're not sure. You do it. That's the Maggid Mishnah's words from the Ra. Now that I'm understanding the second case. Such a geschmack var that the whole idea of Sveika D'Rabbanan doesn't work with B'dikas Chametz, because that's the gather of the mitzvah. The definition is that even though it's a suffix, you still do B'dikas Chametz. That is what B'dikas Chametz is. So if I say the second case, you might have a suffix. 50-50. So you should say that what? Because you don't know. Shani Yomer, you don't know. You did bittel. I don't care if you did bittel. That's the whole vart here. The vart is you did bittel. And it's a Sveika D'Rabbanan. I don't care if it's a Sveika D'Rabbanan. That's the mitzvah. It's not like a mitzvah of lighting Hanukkah candles or eating or giving truma or shaking a lulav. That's all dinim of vadai. The whole din is the din of safek. So if I say the second case, l'chayr should also be.
So what did the Maggid Mishnah say in that case?
Okay, so here it gets a little more dakastik. It gets a little more dakastik. How you have to understand this sveikas thing. And okay, Blineder will explore it. We'll explore it tomorrow. But if you can come up with an answer, what's the difference, Ebazai?
The suffix is where, it's not in the item itself.
Ah,
It's not on the item itself, it's where it is, so that's different type of suffix.
you're right. Ah,
Whole things. They were talking about the item.
the gather is suffix.
No,
Right.
Suffix is, once you find
In
it,
the
it's a
bias.
suffix, right?
It's
Once
it's Jacobson. They both have the actual piece of food in the house.
No, but once you, and the item itself is not a suffix. The item is where the thing is. Once
We had
you
other
find it, it's not a
scenarios
suffix.
where there was
Give it-
Svekas involved, and we always
Why they have to get rid of it?
Yes.
brought up just a cut.
By the time, but you don't know.
And then Gemarah,
Fine.
Which second case?
So you want to know when you say this and when you don't say this, because you should always say this.
Yeah,
You
suffix,
brought
you
it
have to
up
look
by,
for it. That's where it is. Once you find it.
when they had the
Yeah, but
suffix,
what's
the
the matter
pouch
is
with the
that-
bleed, turn over
you
the
get
bleed,
it
keep up the bleed. You know, with the,
According to the house, it's the same case.
all kinds of Svekas. Anytime there's a suffix, what? The whole thing's a suffix now, so, all the.
So when do you say this? When don't you? Okay, is there the second case also? That's, the second case should also be by the
Second case.
Baruch Hashem for mousetraps.
You do Bedika with that, then it should have basically, so there's no suffix.
Okay, so let's summarize. The Gemarah goes through here a series of 9 halachas, 9 scenarios of doubts, and with the question of how a person should respond to these doubts in terms of b'dikas chametz. The first question that we addressed was, there are 10 piles, 9 piles of matzah, 1 pile of chametz. You saw a mouse take a piece of pita or lafa from one of the piles. Obviously, the matzah and the chametz look identical. If not, you wouldn't have an issue. And, as we explained that in the olden days and still today in Yemen, they make matzah like pita. So therefore, you wouldn't always know the difference between matzah and chametz. It's not obvious like it is by us, where the matzah is so thin and burnt and tough. It's a whole different creature. Then you wouldn't have an issue with a mouse. But in the matzah of old and in the matzah that still exists in some communities, the Yemenite community, you could get mixed up between the two because they look identical. And as a result of that, you know that the mouse took one of the pieces, but you're not sure if she took chametz or if it took chametz or matzah. And the question is, the way Rashi understands it, do you have to do another b'dikas chametz because the mouse now runs into your house? Your house was already checked. The question is, if there's chametz in your house now, if there's chametz in your house, you have to do another b'dikas chametz or not. So what's the chiddush? The chiddush is that you have to do another b'dikas chametz. Why? Even though the majority of the piles are matzah, so you should follow the roiv, you should follow the majority, because statistically it's probably chametz. So we learned the great chiddush that the Gemarah teaches us, that kol kavua kemechza al mechza dam. That since you saw the mouse take the chametz from the piles themselves, one of the piles, and over there each one is in its place, the matzah is in its place and the chametz is in its place, identifiable, this is matzah, this is chametz. It's not like they were mixed up. They weren't mixed up. They're separate in 10 separate piles. So it's in its place identifiable. The halacha by kavua is that legally we treat it not as a minority, but as equal to any other pile. In other words, we treat it as 50-50. We treat it completely as self-contained, and therefore, it's not a question of majority versus minority. It's a question of 50-50. So male, it's 50% that I have chametz in my house, 50% I don't have chametz in my house. So therefore, you have to do another b'dika. On the other hand, if a piece fell out of one of those 10 and ended up in isolation, and the mouse took that one and brought it into my house, here I wouldn't have to do another b'dika. Why? It's a fascinating halach. I wouldn't have to do another b'dika. Why? Because here, when was the doubt created? The doubt was created when the mouse took that isolated piece. That isolated piece is not kavu, it's not in its place. It was separated, and I don't know from where it was separated. Because I don't know from where it was separated, I go according to the majority. Right? Statistically, it comes from the matzah piles. Because 9 are chametz, are matzah, and 1 is chametz, so mele I don't have to do another b'dikas chametz. That was the first case of the Gemarah. What was the second case of the Gemarah? I have in front of me 2 piles, matzah and chametz. I have 2 houses. One did b'dika and one didn't do b'dika. And the mouse comes and takes one piece. And then another mouse comes and takes another piece. And they run into both homes. So now one house got the matzah, one house got the chametz. Rabbi, I don't know which one. The mouse took matzah and one mouse took chametz. That's good. Everything is nice. If I would have stopped right there. Problem is when the mice ran into the home, I got confused. I don't know which one with the matzah ran into which house. So now it's 50% that my house, which did b'dika, has matzah, which is good, but 50% it has chametz. So what's the halacha now? The Gemarah says. Here the halacha, the Gemarah brought an example from Shtei Kupos. You have 2 boxes of chulin and truma, and you have 2 boxes of chulin and truma, and they each fall into one of the boxes, but you don't know which one to which. Shani Yomer, we say that the chulin fell into chulin, the truma fell into truma, and the Yisrael can eat the chulin box, even though there may be truma in it, 50%. Same as here. We say that the chametz went into the bayis she'enoi baduk, and therefore I don't have to do another b'dikas chametz. I could say the opposite. You could say the other way around, as Rashi says you could. But the Chazal were lenient and said, since you could say not, you don't have to do another b'dikas chametz. Ask the Gemarah, why would you do this? By truma, it's because truma b'zman hazeh is d'Rabbanan. So sveika d'Rabbanan l'kula. So the Gemarah says that's true by b'dikas chametz, since b'dikas b'Rabbanan. Because minat Torah you did bittul. So therefore, minat Torah you won't be over on Bal Yeirah, even if there's chametz in the house. If minat Torah would be over, it's a sveika midayraisa, you would have to go l'chumah, do another b'dik. But since minat Torah it's not an issue, only midirabbanan, so the Rabbanan decided to be lenient and say, since it's possible that there was no chametz in your house, and your house was checked already, so you don't have to do another b'dikas chametz. You could leave it as is. The other person, of course, has to do b'dikas chametz. He has to do b'dikas chametz anyway because he never did b'dikas chametz before. Right. So Tosfos asked the big question that l'chayre this doesn't make sense. These 2 Gemarahs, because in the first case you tell me that if it's 50-50, you have to do another b'dikas chametz, and in the second case you tell me that if it's 50-50, you don't have to do another b'dikas chametz. So Tosfos said that the first case is not talking about b'dikas chametz; it's talking about eating. Right? That was Tosfos' answer. Or the first case is talking about that there was no bittul, so it's a suffix minat Torah. But then the Maggid Mishnah answered in the Rambam that what's the vart? The vart is that b'dikas chametz is a different type of suffix. Why is it a different type of suffix? Because the whole b'dikas chametz was instituted because of a suffix. Whenever you check chametz, it's because there's a suffix. And nonetheless, they said you have to be by the chametz even though there's a suffix. That's the chiddush of the Maggid Mishnah. In other words, whenever I do b'dikas chametz, I come into a room, right? Am I sure there's chametz there under the bed? I don't know. There's so many sveikas. It's not one suffix. Number 1, was the chametz ever brought in here? Number 1. Suffix number 2, even if it was brought in here, maybe it was brought out. Suffix number 3, maybe it became moldy and decadent and rotten. Even a dog can't eat it. So no chid, no isser. Nonetheless, you say you have to do b'dikas chametz. I sveika the rabbanon l'kula. It's a suffix the rabbanon. The answer is that is b'dikas chametz. The gather of b'dikas chametz is, the Maggid Mishnah put it, tchilasa ala suffix. It was instituted because of a suffix. That's the gather of b'dikas chametz. In other words, the definition of b'dikas chametz is that when you have a suffix, you do it. That's the chiyuv. Yeah, that's the chiyuv of the rabbanon. In other words, if you'll say sveika the rabbanon l'kula by b'dikas chametz, there wouldn't be b'dikas chametz anymore. Other dinim of the rabbanon said you should do something. Now is a suffix, did I do it or didn't I do it? Did I do this mitzvah or didn't I do it? So you say, you know what? You don't have to redo it. Why don't you have to redo it? Because it's a suffix the rabbanon. Maybe you didn't do it. That's what a suffix the rabbanon is. Suffix the rabbanon means there's a suffix, did you do it or didn't you do it? So you go l'kula. Here, you're going to say, it's a suffix. It's a suffix if there's chametz or there's no chametz, right? So you'll say you don't have to do b'dikas chametz. No, the takana is, that's the takana, that's the vadai takana. That's the Maggid Mishnah's gewaldike chiddush. That even though it's a suffix in the first case, you still have to do b'dikas chametz, because you're saying we're not sure if there's chametz or matzah. That's what all b'dikas chametz is. You're not sure and you have to be baidik. The big problem is then the second case. Why does the Gemarah change? That was the great struggle. We stayed with l'chayre. The second case then doesn't make sense, because if your tak is saying that b'dikas chametz is a different type of creature, it's a different type of suffix, which is a moedik word of the Maggid Mishnah. But then what happens that the second case, the Gemarah says, you could ignore it and make believe you didn't have the chametz because it's 50-50. And you say that what? That you don't have to be by the chametz again. This is the question we remained with. Okay.
What was the issue of Chazaka? You said that
Tosfos asked a question about chazaka, gewaldike question. How could you compare b'dikas chametz to the 9 stores? By the 9 stores, I understand that one store is treif. Because one store is treif, so you say it's kavua, it's kemechza al mechza. But in our case of the house, Tosfos said, there's a cheskes baduk. By the stores, there's no cheskes heter. In other words, one store is really treif. There's no question about it. Here, there's a cheskes baduk, which means this house was baduk already. So if you go back to the chazaka means if you go back to the status quo, where was the house right before the suffix? What type of house was it? The answer is it doesn't need b'dikas chametz. I already did b'dikas chametz. So l'chayre, that's another tremendous incentive. Tosfos asks 2 questions. First of all, b'dikas chametz is the rabbanon, and the stores is d'oraisa, meat is d'oraisa, and this is the rabbanon. Question number 1. Question number 2, over there there's no cheskes heter, over there there's a cheskes baduk, which is why Tosfos changes the Gemarah and says it's not talking about b'dika, it's talking about eating. But Rashi clearly says it's about b'dika. The Rambam clearly says it's about b'dika. So you have to say there was no bittul. But the Rambam doesn't make that distinction. Even if there was bittul, you have to do another b'dika. So that's where the Maggid Mishnah came up with his vart, b'shem derah, Rabbi Aaron HaLevi, b'shem earlier, Rishonim, that dikas chametz is a different type of creature. Okay. So this question is very clear, and a very, very powerful and important question. Let's keep it on hold for a few moments.
I had a suggestion.
No.
But I didn't like my suggestion.
Okay.
So,
You could say it.
the suggestion was that in the first case we have one suffix, and because the reason of Maggid Mishnah that the whole union of
Because chametz is on the suffix.
then we understand that we do it in this particular case the chumrah, and we require second tik. In the second case, we have a case of suffix and vade, because one guy already did dika, another one for sure didn't do dika, and now something happened, and now what do? Because this suffix is already less a suffix, because there is a suffix for one guy, but for the second guy, there is for sure vade that he needs to do no matter what. So because we're talking about case of 2 people and not one, so that lichora we do it suffix likula, because there is a suffix in vade. It's not just strong suffix on its own.
Because you compare it to the vada, it's relative.
It's mixed with the vade. Okay. So, but I don't like it.
But that doesn't help me with the, yeah. You're saying for you it's worse. Okay, I got it.
No, because now we're kind of in the
But for me, still, I hear you.
We have to eat Pesach together. We'll come to the meal together. You never know. They're 2 together.
B'dika wasn't made because of suffix. B'dika was made because it's bad. You have to be guided. You know this.
No, you're wrong. B'dika was made for suffix. I'll tell you why. If you have chametz on your counter, you don't need the chachamim to say you got to do b'dika. You got to get rid of it.
Right, so
That's not b'dika. B'dika, the chiddush of b'dika is that any room in the house where there's a possibility that chametz went in there middle of the year, you have to do b'dika. There's so many doubts. Maybe there's no chametz there. Maybe even if this chametz there was taken out. Maybe even if the chametz wasn't taken out, it went there last Chanukah, it became rotten. The answer is, you're right. Of course you're right. That's why there's a question in Shulchan Aruch. What happens if you boidik your house and you don't find any chametz? Is it a bracha levatala? And the answer is no. Because the mitzvah is not to find, the mitzvah is to search. What does searching by definition mean? Searching means that it's not conspicuous. The halacha of b'dikas chametz is not that when there's chametz in my refrigerator, I have to get rid of it. You don't need the chachamim for that. Let's say there was no chi of b'dikas chametz, only the Raisa. You understand? In other words, chametz in my refrigerator, you don't need the rabbanon. Of course you have to get rid of it. It says, touch bisus or b'teichem. Lo yirab, lo yimotzeh. The question is, if there's chametz in a room, but it may not be chametz in a room, do I have to go search for it? Torah says you shouldn't see chametz, you shouldn't have chametz. But what if I have no reason to suspect there's chametz? Maybe yeah, maybe not. Came the chachamim and said, that's what b'dikas chametz is. I want you to search in places. Even though it's very likely that there's not chametz. As long as there's a possibility that there's chametz. If for sure there's no chametz, a place you don't bring in chametz, then you're not mechuyev, because there's no reason to suspect. We don't suspect stam freaky things that are not natural. But if it's a bedroom of a child, even though it's not the kitchen, and mommy said 100 times, no cookies in the bedroom, but since you know your babies, and they don't listen to mommy, always, so therefore you have to do b'dikas chametz there, etc. That's the word. Let's see the next case, okay? Case number 3. Case number 3. Tzibur echad shel chametz ulefonav shnei batim b'dukin. A person has one pile of chametz, and in front of the pile there are 2 houses, and they were both checked. So let's understand. In the first case, what happened? There was one house, and the achbar came into the house. We're not sure with chametz or matzah. From the pile already, we're not sure. Second case, there were 2 houses and 2 mice, and each one took a piece of matzah and chametz, which we know which piece it was, but it got confused in terms of the houses, which one they went into. Now this case number 3. Tzibur echad shel chametz, you have one pile of chametz, that's not a question. Ulefonav shnei batim b'dukin. And in front of it, you have 2 houses that were both checked. V'asa achbar v'shakal. And a mouse came and took the chametz from the pile and went into one of the houses. But I don't know which house the mouse went into. It's not a question if it's matzah or chametz. It's vaday chametz. There was one pile chametz. It's clear it's chametz. And the mouse took it. That's clear. We saw it. And we saw the mouse go into a house. That's also clear. The problem is the mouse went into the house and it didn't remain in the dining room. So everybody could see the mouse with the chametz. Then you have to do b'dikas chametz in this house. Unless you have the mouse, you can get rid of the mouse with the chametz. But I'm talking about, you know which house it went into. You don't know which house it went into. It ran in, right? It went through the door, under the door. There's a little hallway. Say it went, boop. One of the houses now needs another b'dikas chametz. So here,
How is it that you don't know which house? How is it how they constructed it? Side by side with an ant with a...
come on, you ever saw how fast mice run?
No, I have. I'm saying that you see it.
Even Google can't figure it out
It goes
always.
so fast. How it go in? And how do you know which...
No, you saw it go into the house. You saw it go into the entrance of the house. Let's say there's one door.
There's one door between 2
Let's say there's one door between 2 apartments, right?
Right.
And let's say there's a front door. There's a hallway.
Joint doors.
Yeah, yeah, yes,
joint courtyard.
yes. A joint door, a similar phenomenon, right? So you don't know exactly. You know, if you didn't see it go into a house, you don't say it went into a house. Could have gone to the gutter, could have gone underground, could have gone to some hiding place. We said the Mishnah ain't choshen. We don't have stamach shash that a rat went into your house with chametz, because then no b'dikas chametz should ever work, because there's always rats and mice and weasels, especially in those days, right? So it's always a
So
choshen,
it's like a building with a lobby.
so to speak. Let's say,
There's no dormant.
right? Or he was reading a book, or he was texting.
He was in conspiracy with mice.
The union wouldn't let that.
So now here we come to step 3. This is different than the previous case. Why is it different than the previous case? L'chayda, isn't this mamash the previous case? The previous case is exactly the same thing. You don't know if it's this house. You don't know if it's this house. Why is the Gemarah making a whole new situation?
No, because now we know what they were.
No, I know factually the story was different, but in Teuchen, in Seichel, in the Mahalach, it's the same story.
No, it's a completely.
No, both are suffix. In the first case, in both cases, it's 50% that I have chametz. Both cases.
So what would he say? That both are good?
In other words, in the previous case, it's 50% I have chametz. It's also 50% I don't have, because it could be the mouse in my house is holding the matzah. It was holding the matzah, right? So it's 50%. In this case, also, it's 50% to have chametz, because it could be that the mouse went into the other house. The only difference is, in the first case, the mouse for sure went into my house, but maybe with matzah. And in the second case, the mouse maybe didn't go into my house, it went into the other guy's house. The same Sveika D'Rabbanan L'Kola. 50. The Gemara makes a new situation. What's the difference?
First case,
No.
when you say Shani Oimer, you're saying a sensible thing, that the Chumetz went into the Chumetz, so the animal did. Here, if you were going to be mounted both houses, you contradict yourself. It's either or.
Now for sure you have to do.
One is for
Dika.
sure Chumetz, one is for sure not. So
We know for sure we have to do.
Which
Dika.
one will
The
you
question
choose?
is which house. Most likely both.
Oh.
Right?
So this is very important, that the Gemarah adds now the third case, because it's not just the story changes. It's the mahalach of the story changes. In the previous case, you could say that the chametz went into a house that wasn't baduk. We're not sure, but 50% chance that the chametz went in to the right house, meaning the house that's anyway needs b'dikah. And the matzah went into my house, which already had b'dikah. So you could say that it worked out well, right? I did a b'dikah, and I got the matzah. You didn't do a b'dikah, and you got the chametz. I can also say the other way. But at least it's equal. Both sveikas are called shkul, and it's equal. So that works. So what happens now? I could keep each house in its chazakah. In other words, the same assumption that this house had before the mouse, it can have now too. The chazak of this house is that it was baduk. Maybe it's not. You're right. Maybe it's not. But I'm not sure. I know for sure it was baduk. That's 100%. I did the good dikkas chametz. It was kosher. So for sure, the status quo is this house is baduk. Now you want to change that. You want to change my chazaka by saying, no, there's chametz. You don't know. It's a suffix. It's a suffix. Okay. So, Sveika D'Raisa, Sveika D'Rabbanan. Why is it Sveika D'Rabbanan? It's a suffix in a din D'Rabbanan, right? So you say, look, I go with the 50% that it's kosher, and therefore I don't change my chazaka. That's in the previous case. In this case, both houses were baduk. So you can't say, leave each house in its chazaka. It's not going to work. One house's chazaka was destroyed, because it's not 50%. It's 100% that there's chametz in one house, not 50%. It's 100%. The problem is I don't know which house. So it's a completely different type of creature. For sure, chametz went into one of the houses. In other words, one house for sure needs a b'dikah, a new b'dikah. In the previous case, that's not true. It's not for sure that one house needs a new b'dikah. You didn't do a b'dikah yet, so you anyway need to do it. In other words, you were anyway doing b'dikah, so it's not a new thing. Me, I did a b'dikah yet, and we're not sure I need a new b'dikah. We're 50% sure, but we're 50% not sure. In this case, we don't know which, but one house for sure, the status quo was destroyed and a new halacha was created. The problem is I don't know which one. You're right. So this, I'm just explaining this. This is what the Chidush Aran says, why the Gemarah, there's an evolution here, why the Gemarah brings a new case. In other words, you say it's the same case like before. It's just a different story. What do you I'm going to mutcha with every type of scenario? So he says, no, it's not. And that's where the Gemarah is going to bring a new source to deal with this suffix. The previous source with Truma and Chulin is not going to suffice here. Because again, in the previous source, I could say, the Chulin, I knew this box is Chulin. That's the Chazaka, right? It was a Vadai, it was for sure. Now you want to change it and say there's Truma here. It's only a suffix. So you keep it Chulin. That works for the second case. For the third case, you need a new vart, because something really changed there. In other words, we know for sure one of the houses needs a b'dikas chametz. The question is which one.
Because in the previous case, it could be that you have only matzah in the.
Exactly. In the previous case, the house that had b'dika matzah, and therefore the house doesn't need b'dikas chametz.
We can't say chazak.
Exactly. You can't say chazak anymore. Cheskas baduk doesn't work. You say it has a cheskas baduk. Of course it had a cheskas baduk. It doesn't have a cheskas baduk anymore. If I do b'dikas chametz in my house, and then somebody brings in challah to my house, you say cheskas baduk. What cheskas baduk? You need a new b'dika, right? If you see a mouse go into your house with chametz, no cheskas baduk anymore. Here I saw it, I just don't know which one. It's a whole different word. So what do we say now? Zog the Gemarah Hainu Shnei Shvilin. This is the case of two paths. That now we learned a Mishnah Maseches Taras, Perikei. Shnei Shvilin, there were two paths. Echad Tameh ve'echad Tahor. One is impure and one is pure. Meaning, there's a path that horizontally, there is a grave. There's somebody buried in that path throughout the entire width. So if I walk through that path, my body became an oihel. My body hovered over the mace, and automatically I became tameh. No question. But there's another path, which is tahor. In other words, there's no corpse over there. No, what happens now? What happens is, there were two paths, echad tameh ve'echad tahor. The problem is, we don't know which one is what. We know there's two paths. We know one is tameh, one is tahor. We don't know which one of the two paths is the tameh. V'holach be'echad mehen. I walk through one of these paths. V'asa taras. And then I come home, and I touch taras. Taras means, let's say, it's in Yerushalayim, and I'm eating my carbon, and I touch my carbon food. Or I'm a kohen, I touch my truma food. Now, I may have just walked over a corpse and became tummy for at least 7 days until I don't get the sprinkling of the red water and ashes of the paradum and go to the mikveh or whatever the tumah is. And the problem is the taras become tummy. His friend went on the second path, taras, and then he went and touched pure sacred food. One of them certainly became tameh, and one of them certainly was metameh, the tahir food. But we don't know who. This is the case the Gemarah is comparing it to. What's the halacha? Rabbi Yehuda says, thank you. Fascinating. If they come to a Chacham and they ask the question independently, Tahirin, everyone gets a verdict, Tahir. The Rav tells you, Tahir, your food is Tahir, everybody can eat it, Hamachaya. The Rav tells you, your food is Tahir. It seems like a joke.
Because they didn't tell him which way, all they knew that they...
The answer is, it's a suffix. It's a suffix. As we'll see in Rashi, suffix Tumah B'Rishus Harabim is Tahir. That's the halach.
It's one story, right?
Shneim b'basachas. But if they both came to the Chacham, to the sage, simultaneously, what should he tell them? He has to tell them Tmeyin. Both are Tameh. Why? Simply because he can't say to both of them, Tahir, both are Tahir. He can't. It's not true. It's a lie. So it's a very funny thing. You come, the next guy comes 10 minutes later, both come out with a psak Tahir. You're bad mazel, you walked together, and you said, we have this issue. Sorry, both are Tameh. Rabbi Yossi says, no, sorry. Ben kach or ben kach Tmei. In both cases, it's Tameh.
But he's not dining them together.
Right.
Individually.
Right.
So you're saying that one after another, it's not
Exactly. Right.
transactions at 4 seconds.
Rabbi Yehuda says because it's not individual, it's not together, it's individually, both get a psak tahor, unless they came together. Amar Rava.
No, but I'm asking, unless they came together.
Right.
They didn't go to...
Yes.
Did they go and say...
Oh, no, that's irrelevant when they went.
So one after another.
Yes. He means they came to ask together, not that they went on the paths together. It's two separate paths.
I'm talking about asking.
Yes, the asking was together.
One comes and says, give me
Yes.
stock, and right behind him in line is another.
Yes.
And even though they're separate...
Yeah. Two roads diverged. Yeah. One took one and the other took the other one. So one is Tom. Amar Rava says, let me explain the Mishnah. V'teimer Rabbi Yochanan, some say Rabbi Yochanan said this. But Basachas divrei hakol tmeyin. In fact, if they came simultaneously, everybody holds the psak din, the verdict would be tameh. Rabbi Yehuda would agree, as he says, and Rabbi Yossi would agree, as he says. If they actually come one after the other, everybody would hold Torah. In other words, even Rabbi Yossi. The real argument Rava says, or Rabbi Yochanan, is if one of them comes to ask a question for himself, but also for his friend. In other words, he comes in and he says, this is the story, and we want to know, I'm asking for both of us, what is the halacha about the holy, pure food that we both touched? Yeah. Rabbi Yossi medami lebasachas. Rabbi Yossi compares this case to a case where they both came and asked the question simultaneously, because just like in that case, he can't say both foods are pure. Here he also can't say both foods are pure, because it's not true. Rabbi Yehuda, the first opinion, he compares this case to the case where they come one after the other. Why? Since there's only one person questioning, not two people, so therefore he could tell him, your food is tahir, and as Rashi says, he'll be able to understand that the same answer applies to his friend. That's the case. We're now finished with the case of Shnei Shvilin, and this is what the Gemarah brought in order to prove the answer to our situation with the two houses. Let's see Rashi. Second Rashi, Yura Malal. V'lo yadin en ila hayel v'ila hayel. Ima tzechinim b'dikkel travayu eloi. Do both need b'dikkel? Hainu shnei shvilin. Mehad etranga b'shnei shvilin matzinu lemifshat. The Mishnah about two paths will give us an answer. Echa tame, kaver mutal by le'rachbay. There's a kaver, a corpse, a burial plot of a corpse le'rachbay in the width. It's very important to say it's width. Why? Because mamali is kuloi. It fills the entire width of the path. If the kaver was in the length, then we're not sure one person is tameh. Maybe both are not tameh. So it's a whole different situation. But here it's mamali skule, meaning ve'ein oiver boy shalo yahil. There's nobody to pass who can avoid hovering over the corpse. That's what an oil means. You become a tent. Either you're in the tent with the corpse, or you become the tent over the corpse. No difference in both cases. You tameh. V'halach v'asataris. What means v'asataris? Naga betaris acherkach. You touch pure food afterwards. We know for sure that the two friends took different paths and not the same, because if that is a doubt, maybe we did the same path, then we both may not be tameh, right? So then there's no din if we come together. You can't say tahir. You could say tahir because we both may not be tameh. We know for sure the vadai echad hashta vadai echad men tameh. Im nishalu kol echad l'chacham sveike b'fnei atzmai tahir ve'ein bezdin yachal l'tamei. Why? K'de kaimelon b'sofik tumeh b'rishus rabim sveike tahir. It's a gewaltige chiddush asugim mesechta soite and nida that when it comes to sofik tumeh in a public domain, even though it's a question of Torah, you can go into the Beis HaMikdash, you can eat karbonos, it's big questions, serious questions. Sofik tahir. In Rishus HaYachid sveike tamei. It's a unique situation that the question of doubt or certainty should be based on where it happened. Usually that's never the case. No difference where. The question is it likely or not likely? Here it's unique. If it's a question in Rishus HaRabim, it's tamei. If it's a question, it's a tahir. If it's a question in Rishus HaYachid, it's tamei.
There's no violence in the Rishus HaRabim. Why do we say that?
We'll soon see. We learn it out from Soita, from the Sugi of Soita. But in Rishus HaRabim, it's tahir. B'meila, sveike tahir. So therefore, you can't say this person is tamei. He may be, but it was a suffix tumah b'Rishus HaRabim. So b'meila sveike tahir, and he can go back and say that all this food remains pure. V'im bo b'basachas. But if they come together, since in one directive you have to say tahir or tamei, you pashut can't. You can't verbally say you're both tahir, even though individually you could say it. So even though the P'tur of Rishus HaRabim is not lost, but he cannot say to both of them tahir, that the food is tahir, because that's not true, because one of them became tamei. Rabbi Yossi ben kacha ben kach tmein garas. So Rav explained, Bazach as a divrei hakol tahir and afa b'shel kol echad omer lefanenu kacha ya ma'aser shel liva shel chaveri aval eini nishel elal atzmi matahei alai. Even if I share what happened to my friend, if I'm only asking for myself, everybody holds you could say tahir. Alav al chaveri matahei al shneinu. What if he asks for both? Rabbi Yossi medami lehu lebas achas. ואף על פי שאין שניהם לפניך צורך אתו יראה אחס לשניהם, או יטמאין אתם או טהרין אתם, והרי אין אתם יוכל להם טהרין אתם. Rabbi Yossi compares it to them coming together. Rabbi Yehuda medami luluzach hazeh, hoyel ve'en kan shoyel ele echad. Since there's only one man questioning, Meshivin lo you tell him tahir ato you're tahir. Why? Sharei sofek biyahu. Because it's a sofek biyah. What's pshat? It's a sofek biyah. It's a sofek if he ever came into the path where there's a mace. So therefore, tahirata, because it's a sofek biyah. It's interesting, Rashi didn't use these words initially. When Rashi decided what the Pesach din, when Rashi explained what the Pesach din was, he said, sofek tum b'rishus harabim sveikei tahir. Here he adds this new word, sharei sofek biyahu. It's a sofek if he b'chlal entered into this path. He'll understand on his own the psak for his friend. But if both are asking toich kedei dibur, and here Rashi defines, what does it mean they ask together? Ask together means what? They speak simultaneously? It means within a few seconds. Shalom Aleichem Rabbi, Shalom Aleichem, between a few seconds from the first person. The other person asked, so you have to answer both. And then everyone will hold that you cannot say tahir. What's the connection to our case? V'gabe batim nami. So now it's the same vaisa with the house. Okay? My house is baduk. Your house is baduk. One of our houses needs a nubdikas chametz. That's not a question. One of our houses needs. It's a suffix, just like the two paths. So he says, if they both come to the Chacham independently to ask about B'dikas Chametz, we tell each individual, you don't have to be baidik. Why? It's a suffix. Because the kivan the B'dikas Chametz d'Rabbanan, talina l'kula. Just like suffix tumah b'rishus harabim is tar, B'dikas Chametz is a chi of d'Rabbanan. We follow the lenient possibility. You have a suffix, and you did bittul. It's only a question on the Rabbanon. It's fine. You won't do b'dika. Maybe there's chametz. Okay. It's a suffix. If they both came simultaneously, then you can't say you both don't need b'dika. That's not true. One needs. So therefore they're going to need b'dika. And what if one person comes and asks for the other? Then it's going to be a machlokes, Rabbi Yehuda and Rabbi Yossi. Rabbi Yossi will say they both need b'dika, and Rabbi Yehuda will say they both don't need b'dika, because you tell this person, you don't have to do b'dika, and he'll understand on his own what his friend has. If one person comes to ask for both. So even though one chazaka was certainly ruined, and one house for sure needs b'dikas chametz, and you can't say go back to the status quo. One of them can't go back to the status quo. Nonetheless, we have a gewaldige chiddush. We keep each house according to its chazakah, and nobody has to do b'dikas chametz. And this is a chiddush because even though we know for sure that one house has chametz in it, and there was no b'dikas chametz after the chametz came in, which you can't say about the second case. The second case, we don't know for sure that a checked house now has chametz and was not checked. We don't know that for sure. 50%. Here, we know for sure that one house after b'dikas chametz got chametz in the house, and there was no new b'dikas chametz. Nonetheless, we say you're good. Go into Pesach. Why could you go into Pesach? Because you asked for yourself. It's a suffix, just like Shnei Shvilin. We know for sure that there's a carbon that's tamei, and nonetheless we treat it as tar. And it's very interesting because if you think about it, we know for sure that one of these foods is tamei. It's like, what are you talking about? How could you let a kohen eat it? It's asur mamish. Could be yisurim of misa b'dei shamayim. Nonetheless, we say it's fine. Why? Because Torah says suffix tumah b'rishus harabim tar. So if you have a suffix, you don't have to say tumah. It's not a suffix. It's a vada. You just don't know who. You're right, but for you, it's a suffix. No. We learn it in Torah. From Sukkot.
So, in Torah, you would say...
Yeah, of course. Because Tumah is the Indian of Deiraisa. Yeah, it's unique. Usually, Sveika Deiraisa L'chumra. Was? Was sagt er?
Oh, it's interesting. The same Torah who said that there's Misa B'dei Shamayim.
Yeah, the same Torah says that, yeah.
It's not based on the fact.
Exactly. The same Torah that says that it's a tamei and it's an isur chomer to eat it, the same Torah says, even though you could say one is for sure tamei, and you know it for sure, it's not a question, nonetheless you can eat it. Tosfos has an interesting diuk. If you take a look, halach bechad men vasa taras, hadar naket taras v'loy kamer adam tar. Why do we have to make this whole complicated ma'aseh? He went and touched pure food. Why don't you just say about him? Is he tired or not? Does he need paradum or not? Does he need mikvah or not? I mean, what do you have to go to the food? Talk about himself. Same issues. He says no. When we talk about the people, shelayigu shneim betruma. The oz hatruma tmeya v'adoyes v'oichel b'missa. V'imnagu shneim be'echad v'nichnas l'mikdash chayav. Fascinating. Tosfos says when it comes to the person himself, even though he has cheskas tahir, and you can't take away that chazaka through a suffix, so I'm tahir, we will still force the person to get tvila, and hazazah means sprinkle from the ashes in the water of the paradum. Tvila, go to the mikveh. Why? Why? Not for himself. Because if me and my friend touch truma, then the truma is for short time, and if somebody eats it, he's chayav misa b'dei shamayim. And if we touch somebody, that person is now a tamei from the both people, and if he goes into the Beis HaMikdash, he's chayav karas. So therefore, we're going to force the person to go to the mikveh. That's cute. That's funny. The first Tosfos Yudam and Aleph. That's why the Mishnah puts it in a different situation. Asataris. Food, you can't put food in the mikveh. It's not going to work. So the question on the food is it tamei or tahir? On the person himself, you're right, I'm tahir and you're tahir. But we're going to say go to the mikveh anyway. But the taris is not going to help. You have to give up psak din. So that's why it says on taris. Another interesting word in Tosfos, but bas achas divrei hakol tmeim nira dehainu midrabanan demidaraisa filu babachas tahir. He says even this is only the Rabbanan. In other words, minat Torah, Tosfos holds, if they would come together, you could still say you're both tahir. Ad kedei kach. The Rabbanan said don't do it because you look like a liar. It's mechsika shikra. It's very strange. It's like you're contradicting the facts. So therefore don't do it. But he says that goof is only a din de Rabbanan. Minat Torah, even if they come together, you could say you're both tahir. You're both not tahir, but you're both in reality tahir because suffix tumah is tahir. So mainly you're both tahir. Fascinating. Right, the dayan looks like it's strange. That's what the Rabbanan said. If they come together, it's going to be too weird, too deceptive, too strange. So this is the third case. We'll soon see because the Gemarah is going to get back to it. Yeah, we'll soon see. We learn it out from the sugya of Saita. There's a difference between Safik Tum B'Shus Ram and Safik Tum B'Shus Echad. We'll soon see the exact source. Good, but already in the second case we said Sveik because Chametz is as D'Rabbanan and Sveik L'Kula. We're just the third case a continuation of the second case, just like in the second case.
Right, so we have the same issue.
Where it's 50-50, you say you don't have to be Baidik. Here it's also 50-50, I don't have to be Baidik. One of the houses for sure needs B'dik. You're right. But each house has a suffix. So if I come on my own and you come on your own, right? Or even if I ask for you, according to Rabbi Yehuda, we both don't have to do B'dik. You're right. You want to know again with the Maggid Mishnah. Good. The same question we had in the second case, we have in the third case. You're right.
So
You're saying why you B'dikas Chametz, why do we let go of Sveikas?
all right, it's the same issue.
Huh?
It's the same issue, basically.
Yeah. I'm going to answer the question, but I want to do one more case. One more case. Next case. Case number 4. Okay? 4.
Well, the first case was...
The first case concluded 2 details. Kavua and Parish. The second case was the 2 houses, Matzah Chametz. The third case was the 2 houses and Chametz in one, and not in the other one. There was 1 mouse. And now comes the 4th case. What's the 4th case? Very interesting case. I saw the mouse take chametz, okay, and schlepped it into the courtyard of my house. The foyer, the chutzner, the courtyard. Suffolk loyal. I don't know if he decided to go into my dining room too. If he decided to go into my house or not. Rashi puts it, take a look in Rashi, Suffolk loyal. Ra achbar shenotal chametz b'chutzner. What's bothering Rashi? You see a mouse with chametz on 4 shei, You don't have to start being chayshish went into your house, because then nobody can ever do b'dikas chametz that's sufficient. You can always think that there's a mouse that went into your house. The problem, that's why Rashi says it's not from suffik all suffik lo. We already learned in the Mishnah, ein chayshishin shema girur chulda mibayis labayis. Or michatzer lechatzer. Right? Because ein ladav asoif, me'ir le'ir. So Rashi says, Ro achbar shenotel chametz b'chatzer. He took chametz in the chatzer. Va'abayis baduk. Ve'ein yoideyem nichnas eloi nichnas. I don't know if he continued to go in to the house or not into the house. Or either yeah or not. Lav dafka could be my own chatzar. So I'll get. Sometimes you have a chatzar where you don't need b'dikah because there's ravens there all the time and so forth. Yeah. Here there's a chatzar. I see this bread here. I'm for sure gonna have to do b'dikah here because the achba is here with the chametz.
Because Abel Dov is safe here because he went to the chatzar.
So it's yesh l'dav saif. You know, he went into the vicinity of my home. Now, what's the question here? Let's understand. We already answered. It's a suffix. You go l'kula. Didn't we have the second case, the third case? It's all the same issue. You're not sure there's chametz in your house. Maybe yeah, maybe not. So go l'kula. In other, why is there a new question in the Gemarah? If you don't know which house the mouse went in with chametz, even though you went into one of two houses, you go back to your chazaka and you don't have to do a second b'dikas chametz unless they ask together, right? So ibazoi here, for sure it's good because we're not even sure he went into the house. Madach in a case where you know for sure the mouse went into a house, you're just not sure mine or yours, right? Still, you don't have to do b'dikas chametz. Why? Because unless you came to ask together, each one is assumed to maintain its chazaka, even though one for sure didn't. For sure here, you don't even know who went into a house. It went into a chatzar. So l'chayre kol shekin v'kal v'chaymer should be good. Why is the Gemarah struggling with this case? Here again, the Chidush Aran, who is the one who explains the evolution of these halachas, comes to the rescue. And what does he say? He tainas that the question is, do we look at the chatzar and the house as one rishus, as one domain? It's basically like one complex. If it's considered like one rishus, so then the fact that it came into the chatzar is mechayev all the bottom with a second bdika. Why? Because it's like you saw a mouse come into your house with chametz. It's not a question of 50%. That's one way of looking at it.
It's a common area, basically.
Yeah, just like if I see the mouse on that corner of the chatzar, I have to check also the other side, right? Because maybe he left there. I don't say, oh, I just saw it there. You have to check. In other words, the whole chatzar is chayiv and b'dika. The whole house or houses would be chayiv and b'dika. All the houses, if it's a chatzar that's shared by many, all the houses would be chayiv and b'dika. So this I can't learn from the previous situation. In the previous situation, he went into one house. So over here, my suffix is only about that house, because I'm not afraid he took it from one house to another house, as we said before. We don't consider that chashash. So over there, you can exempt every single house, because it's a suffix. But here, it's a vaday on the house, just not on the house, on part of the house, if you consider it part of the house. That's how the Ran defines the question. So that's the shaila, how you look at a chatzar. That's the shaila, how you look at the chatzar. How do you look at it? So he says, Hainu bika. This is the case of bika. What's the case of bika? How does he translate bika? A valley? This is the case of open fields. Beplukta de Rebbe Lezer v'Rabbanon. It's dependent on the argument of Rebbe Lezer and Rabbanon, although this line, Rebbe Lezer and Rabbanon, many are not, don't put into the text. We'll soon see why. The Tanan, the Mishnah says, if somebody goes into a place of open fields during the rainy season, and it's not considered a Rishus HaRabim. Why? Because during the rainy season, you're not allowed to walk through people's fields because the seeds are germinating and trying to grow, and therefore it's off limits. It's not like in the summertime, after growth, where very often it could become a domain for the public. The point here is, it was the time when there's no permission for you to trespass. In other words, it's a Rishus HaYachid. The Tumah Besad Ploinus. We know that one field has a grave. Basically, it's impure. Amar Echad, one guy says, Halachti b'makam alaz. I went into this territory. But I'm not sure if I went into that field or I didn't go into that field. Each field, it was a place of a lot of fields, but each field has parameters, it has some boundaries, and we knew that in one field there was a caver. The problem is we don't know, we don't have a doubt. The problem is the person doesn't know which one he went in. Did he go through this one? Did he go through that one? And therefore he doesn't know if he ever covered over that grave. Now, usually, Safek Tumah B'Rishus HaYachid is Tameh. And this is a Rishus HaYachid. So when he comes to the Chacham, the answer should be Tameh. But he doesn't know if he came in ever. So Rebbe Lezer Metayr v'Chachamim Metameh. Rebbe Lezer says he's Tahir. Chachamim say no. Shahir Rebbe Lezer Reimer, Safek Biyah Tahir. Safek Magatuma Tameh. When we say Safek Tumah B'Rishus HaYachid, it depends. If it's a Safek, if he Bechlal entered, Safek Biyah, if it's a Safek, if he Bechlal came in, Biyah, from the word Biyah, if it's a Safek, if he came in, then Tahir, even in Rishus HaYachid. Safek Magatuma, if it's a Safek, if he touched the Tumah, for example, I know that I came into the field. I don't know, however, if I came in contact with the Tumah, that's the type of Tumah that's in Rishus HaYachid, that is Tameh. That's what Rebbe Lezer Tainas. Where the Chachamim say that he is Tameh. That's the Machlokes. Let's explain. According to Rebbe Lezer, when you say Safek Tumah B'Rishus HaYachid is Tameh, okay, there's two ways of learning them. I'm going to first say the first one. It's only if there was one Safek, not a Svek Sveika. Here, there's a Svek Sveika. Why is there a Svek Sveika? Two stouts. Number one, did I ever enter into the field? I'm not sure. I went through the fields, but it could be I went to another field. Okay, that's Safek. Even if I did go into that field, that I happened to go over that grave. Maybe I happened to walk in the path of the field where there was no grave. You don't have to say that I actually walked where the corpse was and I hovered over it. So Meiler Rebbe Lezer says that Safek Tumah B'Rishus HaYachid is Tameh if it's one Safek. But if it's a Svek Sveika, it would be Tahir. That's the Shitta of Rabbi Eliezer. What would the Chachamim hold? The Chachamim would hold that there's no two Sveikas here. Why? Because the fact that there are borders between fields doesn't make it separate properties in terms of halacha, in terms of tumah, and therefore there's only one suffix. Did I go over the grave or not? Because I went into one of the fields, and it's considered, since it's a bika with a lot of open fields, it's not enough to differentiate and say that there's a double suffix.
How are the fields marked?
No, but it's
Markers, there's markers, but there's no physical.
It's marked and the rain doesn't affect
Right.
the markers.
Right.
But it's
It's considered one field. So maybe it's one suffix.
but it's for sure.
That's one way of learning the machlokes.
It's like
That's how Rashi learns the
you go on
machlokes.
the road and you know the corpse is this way and you have Shul cross.
No, but if it's not, that's the road. But here we don't say that. That was by the shvil. Here it wasn't like that. It wasn't for sure. Yeah, it was in a corner in a field or in one place in a field. It's not sure that if you went into the field you touched it, then it wouldn't be a svek svek.
Chances you went dafka through that passage of that.
It's a suffix. It's a suffix.
But why do you want?
That's what suffix tumah b'rishus hayachid means. It's a suffix.
There is a different type of suffix.
Ain't it chadam?
So there is maybe let's say it's by the corner. So there is 4 corners. The chance you went through one of the 4, it's 25%.
Okay.
Much less than 50. It's not even max. It's like
Is it
it's like
if
very.
you define- If you define Jacobson as a valley, it's a different.
No, a group of open fields.
That's how it defines it in the art school, but I thought a Bethel was a larger.
Right. So I guess sometimes it means a place where there's. The idea is that in a valley, Bika means a valley, but the idea is that over there they would usually plant a lot of fields. You're right. Yes. You're right. Yeah. Over there, the point is the ditch, the lower incline. Another way of learning this is, Tosfos's way is that Rebbe Lezer holds that svek sveika b'rishus hayachid is tahir because where do we learn suffik tumah b'rishus hayachid? We learn it from a saita. What's the din of a saita? You tell your wife, I don't want to see you privately. I don't want you should be in a private room with, right, XYZ. There's too much going on. I'm suspicious. Say it in front of 2 witnesses. She disobeys, and she goes into a private room with that person. The door is locked or closed. There are witnesses who see her go in, lock the door. Nobody knows that anything happened, but they were there for whatever time. And now she comes out. They both come out. What's the halacha? The halacha is they're not allowed to be together as a husband and a wife until she goes to the Beis HaMikdash and drinks the famous Saita water, and the water will determine. If she admits that she had a relationship, so they can get divorced and it's fine. If she says, no, I'm fine, we just drank a little grape juice over there and had some sushi, so she drinks the water, and so to speak, God takes over. God becomes the therapist in this marriage, and he says, I'll decide, okay? This husband obviously wouldn't trust anybody else, so Hashem says, if she comes out of this, trust her, and if not, she won't live. That's the idea of Saita. Till she drinks the water, she's considered tummy. They can't be together. It's a suffix tumah. Why is it a suffix tumah? Because we don't know for sure. If we know for sure, you wouldn't have to do the water, right? We don't know for sure. So this is where we learn that suffix tumah b'reshus hayachid is tummy. And as the Gemarah says, it's a kal v'chaimer. Because if the woman did it by mistake, or she was coerced, or she didn't want to, then it wouldn't be a problem at all. Nonetheless, it's only if she does it willingly. Nonetheless, if it's a suffix, you still say tameh. Certainly when it comes to a dead corpse, where even if you touch a corpse by mistake, you're still tameh. So for sure, suffix tameh b'reshus hayachid is tameh. That's the yisoid from a saita, that a suffix tameh b'reshus hayachid, even though it's a suffix, it's tameh. Now in that case, by a suffix, by a saita, it's only one suffix. What's the suffix? If she had relations or she didn't have relations. It's only one suffix. So in Mela, Rebbe Lezer says, from Saita you can learn that in a case of one suffix, it's going to be Tameh. That's the word. Because from Saita you learn out that suffix Tum B'Reshus HaYachid Tameh, and over there it's only one suffix. So therefore, Rebbe Lezer disagrees that many Sveikas B'Reshus HaYachid is Tameh. He holds only if it's one suffix B'Reshus HaYachid is going to be Tameh.
What if she was with him and she's around? We saw.
Then there's no stuma. Then there's no suffix tum. No.
I thought the whole idea is because he wanted her and then she was together.
No. Only in Shus HaYachid. They were secluded in a private domain. Only then does it apply. According to this, Rebbe Lezer would hold that only one suffix b'Shus HaYachid is tameh. Usually, most shittas we say that as many sveikas, even svek b'Shus HaYachid, always tameh. And the reason Rebbe Lezer would be metayir here is only because it's a suffix biyah. It's a suffix if you b'chalal came in. It's a different type of suffix. Or the Taisva says, no, Rebbe Lezer l'chatchila holds that if it's one suffix, it's mutter. If it's one suffix, it's tameh, only svek sveika would be tar.
Does the Gemara use bia as a, in both cases, it's a bia, it's a coming in, or it's a...
Coming in, yeah. Coming in.
With the sofa, it's also bia. Right?
Yeah. As coming in.
Same with the sofa, it's the same
Yeah.
word, but it
Yeah.
means something different. in the
Yeah.
case of a
Yeah.
sofa.
Yeah. So what's the conclusion there? How does this apply to us? It applies to us exactly the same situation. What's the situation? So let's see Rashi, and he clarifies it all. Safik ol safik loyal. Ra ach b'shenotel chametz b'chotzev abayis bodig vein yedeim nichnas aloi nichnas. Right? Bika. Harbe sadas asmuchim yachad kari bika. That's what he means by bika here. Many fields. The Maisak Shamim have you bika rishus hayachid l'tumne shekvart samach hazera vein rishus l'chaladam l'kanesla. It's a rishus hayachid because the seeds start growing and they don't let anybody come in. V'kaimel on safik tumah b'rishus hayachid sveikoi tameh. Besada ploinus koloimer. Ba'achas asadas. I went into a field. V'yoydin anu be'ezi v'chol sada v'sada masyamas b'mitzareh. We know where the mace is, and each field has its markers. B'makam alaz b'bikazu. I don't know if I went into this. I went into the bika, but I don't know which field. So Rebbe Lezer says, fine. Chachamim metamed. Havil esafik tumah b'rishus hayachid. For Rebbe Lezer lechashiv l'safik tumah elim kein nichnas l'sada. Only if you came into the field. Aval eini yedeim he'elim loy. Aval hashta aval esvek sveika. But now it's a svek sveik. So Rebbe Lezer says you tar because you're not sure you came into the field. What do the Chachamim hold? The Chachamim hold that all the fields are considered like one, and therefore, as Rashi puts it, it's not a svek sveik. It's only one suffix. Why? Because halachically, when it comes to tumah, they just see it as one domain. As one domain. According to this, what's done by b'dikas chametz? So Rashi continues. V'gabe batim afilu rabbanon moidi. The given the b'dikas chametz the rabbanon talin l'kol. By chametz, it's b'dikas chametz is a chi of only the rabbanon. So mainly even the rabbanon who say tamei over here will say that you don't have to be boidik the house. They say when you came into the fields, even though you're not sure you went into that field. So b'meila, it's a svek sveika. They say you're tamei. Why are you tamei? Because they hold that it's not considered two separate sveikas. It's considered one suffix. Or you may want to learn because they hold even svek sveika b'rishus hayachid is tamei. However, you want to learn their vart. But the nekuda is that the chachamim would say tamei. So if they say tamei, what should be the halacha here? When the achbar came into the chutzner, should I have to be boidik the house or shouldn't I have to be boidik the house? L'chayir, I should say, just like there, we treat all the fields as one domain, and therefore it's only one suffix. And we say that you're tamei, so l'chayir, we should say exactly the same thing here. So he says, for sure, according to Rebbe Lezer, you don't need another bedika. Why don't you need another bedika? Because it would be a sveika. Even according to the Rabbanon, since it's only a chi of the Rabbanon, so you go lekula. What would be the kula? The kula would be that it's one suffix. What's the suffix? The suffix is if it's by you or not, and you would say talina lekula.
What does Kalina mean?
Talina is you rely, you assume, yeah.
Is it from the word
Toila, yeah.
hangs?
Yeah. Like you attribute. Talina, your toila, you bring it over to the side of kula. You hang it on the side. I can hang it on this side, I can hang it on this side, so to speak. And I hang it on the side of kula. So what do we see from here? The Gemarah is comparing the chametz to the din of tumah. If we say the chutzner and the bottom is one rishus, so then I have to do bdik in the house also as though it was a corner of the chutzner. So according to Rebbe Lezer, who calls it suffix bia, because I'm not sure he went into that field. Why am I not sure? Because I don't consider it all like one field. So here too, every house is separate from the chutzner. Since I didn't see the mouse come into the house, so there's no reason to consider it a house in which you saw chametz was brought in. So you don't need another b'dik. The chiddush is that even the chachamim who disagree with Rebbe Lezer, here they say you could be lenient and say that the mouse didn't come into the house. Why? Because the chayvus abdik is only the rabbanon, and therefore you could treat it as a separate entity because we're dealing with a chiyuv the rabbanon. That's why it seems like Rashi wasn't guided as beplukta the Rebbe Lezer rabbanon, because Rashi is saying it's according to both shittas. It's according to both opinions. Ooh, schon spät. Okay, so we won't have time for the answer today, so we'll do that tomorrow. If you could just keep the copies, please. Please just keep it, because so we don't have to make more copies. You have here a Rambam, and you have here a Shulchan Aruch Hilchos Pesach. So if you could just keep it. Also, yesterday we had the Rambam, the first page of the Rambam. So we could just keep. So it's basically 4 pages, 2 stapled and 2 separate. Just keep it wherever you'll know where it is tomorrow, because we're going to learn it tomorrow. Bli neder. Everybody have a wonderful day. No, for Shay,
The idea is that it's letting it such a home, so it's different.
because that's not considered a courtyard. Like, for example, like Shabbos, it's not considered a courtyard. No, because a chutzner is enclosed. A chutzner has 4 walls. A chutzner has 4 walls, yeah. Like when it comes to Shabbos, min ha-Torah, you could carry in a chutzner. The Chazal them said Eruvi Chatzeris, Shlomo Malach was Masakin. But min ha-Torah,
It's like inside the house.
a chutzner is a Rishus HaYachid. It's 4. A chutzner is 4 walls, just without a roof. It's like the lobby of an apartment building is a chutzner. The lobby of an apartment building. The lobby of an apartment building is part of the homes. It's private.
It would be the same as this one doorway.
So if you see a mouse in the lobby, right? Do you need b'dikah? So the Gemarah says you don't need b'dikah. Yeah. The lobby needs b'dikah. The lobby needs b'dikah because there's bread over there. But the houses don't need b'dikah. The lobby needs b'dikah. The chutzner needs b'dikah. The whole lobby.
Who's mechuyev on the lobby?
Whoever's mechuyev.
So anybody is-
If we're partners, we're all mechuyev. So one makes a shliach, you make a shliach, or you hire somebody. But somebody got to do it. If there's an owner, then he's mechuyev.
In an apartment building today, you have to do the deacon.
Especially in New York.
If it's makom shemachnisim by chametz, if kids play there,
You never know. People come home with
So that- yeah.
So it's mechuyev
Yeah.
so everybody has a chiyuv to go.
yeah, of course, yeah. If we live together and there's a lobby and kids play there with food and there could be chametz there, you have to do. I mean, it's usually even if you live, if it's owned by a Jew.
It's road going and like a cooperative. Everyone has a chalik in it. It's the common areas. It would be different. It would be a different din depending on who was living there, wouldn't it?
I mean, the question is whose rishus is it? If it's chametz of a guy, then it's never a
No,
problem.
I'm saying that you live in a building and you're going in and out the lobby. You're going into the cooperative on the 11th
Yeah.
Ocean Avenue, for example. And it comes out that most of your neighbors are also Jewish and they have chametz. The building, if you're the only Jew in the building, would you be required to do a bedika on the lobby?
Are you using it during Shabbos? That's
I'm asking is if you go.
Do you own it?
You own the shares in your place, and you have a right to the common area. So does that mean that because
I don't think so. If you don't own it, probably
no,
not.
but you don't own it outright, you have a right
To use it, you have a right to use it.
to use. But even still, the shares themselves is not like you own a corporate. You own a share in a cooperative. So that would be a different din. That's metaltalin. That's a different.
I think so.
What he was asking was about whether or not a person has his name on a deed to a place, like in Tetzer here, with
Right.
Like a ruvi chatzeris, is that
A
considered?
ruvi
That
chatzeris.
means everybody owns it.
It says on the gate that they own it. It's the gate that everybody has a right to use it on Shabbos, to carry there, to play there, etc. That's the
Right,
point.
it's not that we own together.
If a goy taka has rights there, you have to figure out how to do it. It's not so partial. There's all the halachas how to do it.
he has a wall in common, the boys next door to him, they have a chutzner, right, probably, because most people had chutzers
Yeah.
in those days. So if there's just a few of them in that chutzner, and the goy he doesn't have to be bodik, the goy is
Of
not.
course not.
But there's a common area that they share.
Then you have to be boyded because that's real ownership.
That's real.
Yeah. That's real ownership. Yeah. So in the lobby, you would have to be boyded because there's a mouse there. Do I have to go into the house now and do a whole new bdik in the building? That we say no. It's possible he went into the house. It's true. It is possible. It's possible not.
Do people do that if it's owned by a Jewish person?
I think they do it. I'm thinking when we lived in an apartment building, did somebody do bdikas chametz there?
Anybody worries?
I mean, it is an easy bdikas chametz because usually it's just an open.
Right. Okay.
I mean, it's usually an easy bdikas chametz. It's not a.
We used to live also in park. Nobody ever thought of it.
No? Okay. Maybe it's makom shemachnisim by chametz.
New York City is guaranteed to be not by the mice.
The rats in here.
This class is brought to you by theyeshiva.net. Please help us continue the classes. Make even a small contribution at www.theyeshiva.net/donate.